TitleMatchNetwork.com.
We're joined by I would say one of the first families in professional wrestling. We're down here in Georgia. We're with the legendary Bullet Bob Armstrong and his son, another legend of the wrestling business, Brad Armstrong. Good to have you guys here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good to be here. Thank you for calling us the first family. I appreciate that very much. There's enough of us to be the first family.
I guess start out with you, Bob. How did you get interested and started in the professional wrestling business, and when was this?
Well, I was 6 years old, and I stood on my father's shoulders, and I watched the original Gorgeous George wrestle in Marietta, Georgia. And he would throw gold pins out to the crowd, and they would have the worst fights in that crowd.
It's fine. Say whatever you want. This is unedited DVD. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, so anyway,
A-hole. Knock on the door.
so I watched him at 6 years old. We couldn't get in the building. And I wanted to see so bad, so he put me on his shoulders, and I was hooked ever since I was 6 years old. I'm 67 now. And so all these years,
wow.
I've had a child. I've been wrestling 44 years. Brad, you've been wrestling about 25, right, Brad?
Yeah, I started in 1980. My first match was July 4th, 1980.
Right.
So it was 26
years,
years actually. Yeah.
26 years. Wow, time flies when you're having fun.
Now, was Gorgeous George, was that when you started watching, was that when I guess they said the era of TV wrestling with Gorgeous George?
When it all started, yeah. I was 6 years old, and he was the first guy, and he was so smart that he would come into a town, and he would go to the nearest lady's hair shop and have his hair done. Now you can imagine back in that era, a man going into a lady's hairdresser shop and have his beautiful blonde hair done. Oh, it would spread all over town. It was already sold out.
Right.
By the time he got out of that office and got out of that hairstylist place, the town would usually be sold out right then.
Wow.
And so we didn't get in the building, but I did get to see him from my dad's shoulders, and I've been fascinated by professional wrestling ever since.
Now, what was your first steps into professional wrestling, and what was the first thing? Obviously, there really wasn't wrestling school then. We do the interviews with the guys.
Very, very close shop, very close shop. If you didn't know somebody or somebody didn't take you under their wing, you didn't get into it.
Well, who'd you know?
Very private. I had a guy that was a sheriff and also a wrestler, and his name was Elmo Capel. And I was a power lifter at the time. I was into powerlifting, and I was doing all that. And wrestling, I continually thought about wrestling, so I kept bugging him, and finally he said, okay, come to the ring. I'll work out with you. Well, the first time we worked out, I broke his arm, but because I was 260, so he hired a guy to come work out with me, and after 3 workouts, I started wrestling and learned the hard way. I had broken bones. No schools like today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in the day, I'm sure you heard us old timers talk like that, but we did have to learn hard.
What territory, I guess, or what area or region? This is Georgia Wrestling, or
Yeah,
who was the
Georgia
promoter? What was the circuit?
Georgia Championship Wrestling, we ran only in Georgia. Everything was separate then. You didn't go to Alabama. They didn't go into your territory, but the fight was on if you did. If the Alabama boys came over here without an invitation, the fight was on.
Really?
And every territory had a pistol. And a pistol man that could really go.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody infringed on your territory, they just send that man in to challenge their toughest guy. And the toughest guy won and took off.
Who was the pistol man when you started?
Well, I was at the time because I was so dumb and green that I hurt everybody without meaning to.
Wow. So when you started learning the ropes in the ring, who would you say was the one person that took you under his wing?
Lou Thez taught me a lot.
Really?
Lou Thez, thank God I was one of the people he liked because I wrestled him, I was 35 and in my prime, he was 55, and he showed me more in that 1 hour than I learned in a long time, that old guy. And I made a mistake by saying, Lou, I don't feel too good tonight, I'm gonna kind of take it easy. And he said, if you don't give me your best, I'll break your neck. So I gave him my best, and he still he taught me a wrestling lesson, and I've never forgotten that.
Now, was he, I guess, what was the term they called a hooker back then?
Yeah, he was the last of the great hookers, and he could hook you right.
So he was probably the toughest.
I would say so, because he was pretty big. You know, in the old days, wrestlers weren't that big. They were short, and they were big and round. And when I started, I was a weightlifter, and I loved it, and they all mocked me for it. Don't do that, kid. You'll mess up your time. Don't do this. Don't do. Well, I kept on weightlifting, and thank God Lou Thez he liked to stay in shape, and he was about 6'2", and his good fighting weight was 230 pounds, so he was one of the bigger ones, and probably why he was one of the toughest too.
So the Georgia territory, you working there, what was your first steps outside of the state of Georgia?
I came to Birmingham for a famous old guy, everybody remember his name, called Nick Goulas.
Nick?
They asked the promoter here, could we borrow Bob Armstrong? They wanted to try something over in Birmingham. And so they gave me a build-up for about 3 weeks. The first time they brought me in, it sold out.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I was any good, because they did the right promotion.
So was there that heat between the Alabama and Georgia, kind of?
Constantly.
Really?
Constantly. And you didn't step on anybody's toes.
Mm-hmm.
So you asked permission.
Mm-hmm.
And usually they try to get along unless you ask something. They just, they could say no too, but usually they tried to get along. Everybody wanted to avoid a fight. And so by working with each other like that, territory survived most of my career. 44 years, most of it was working territories.
No, I guess when you went into Birmingham, you were a heel, I would guess, or
No.
not always babyface?
No, always.
Really?
Always right in as a babyface. And see, TVs overlapped.
Mm-hmm.
TVs did overlap, and we had a very strong TV in Atlanta.
Right.
And so that overlapped into Birmingham, and that's why I got asked there in the first place, because they saw the TV and they thought they could. Nick Lewis thought he could do something with me, and I stayed there for years. Yeah, I wrestled in Birmingham last Friday night.
Wow. So your first steps outside into Birmingham there, who was some of the guys that you had your best money-making matches with?
Nick Bockwinkel,
Mhm.
Ric Flair,
Ric Flair?
Jack Briscoe. I wrestled all the world champions, and that was always big money. They got big money, and the guy that wrestled them got big money. So most of those guys, Gene Kiniski was one of the toughest I ever wrestled.
Right.
He wasn't a very famous champion, but he was an ex-hockey player. And brother, when you wrestled him, you got your money's worth.
Right. So in Alabama and everything, who was where did that territory left? Was that the Knox? That didn't go up to Knoxville, did it? No.
Chattanooga.
It went to Chattanooga, and Knoxville was kind of a private area.
Uh-huh.
A man named John Kazanis. He just had an agreement with everybody around him. I don't know how that worked, but Knoxville was his little area. And it went to Chattanooga. We'd go to, sometimes they would fly me. I would do 3 TVs in a day, starting in Memphis, Tennessee in the morning, Chattanooga TV, and wrestle in Chattanooga, and then drive like hell because you gained an hour going to Birmingham from Chattanooga, Eastern Standard to Central Standard, and wrestle on a 10:30 live TV there.
Wow.
So they ran us to death, no doubt about it. Brett can tell you that. I was gone a lot of the times. I like to have been there for him. He's got a taste of it now.
So how was Goulas as a promoter?
According to how you felt about him, I really felt bad. A good friend of mine, Johnny Rivers, we wrestled in Chattanooga, and it was a sellout, and I think I made $175. And back then, that was big bucks,
Mm-hmm.
And I told Johnny Rivers the next week, I said, boy, that was a great payoff. I got $175, right, Johnny? And he said, you got what? I got $75. Well, he got so mad, he threatened to kill Nick Goulas and left and went to Texas and got killed the next week in an automobile accident.
Oh,
And
jeez.
Nick Goulas came to me and said, kid, don't ever tell anybody what you make anymore. So Nick Goulas, if he liked you, it's a lot of politics. If he liked you, you got paid good, and if he didn't, treat you like hell.
Now, when you were in there, what was that, the 70s, I guess?
That was the 60s.
Late 60s?
Early 60s.
Early 60s. Who do you think was the best NWA champion of that in the 60s at that time?
I don't know. Jack Briscoe's always been my favorite because he was legit.
Mm-hmm.
He could go so good. I know he was after the 60s and everything, but he's my favorite because he worked you hard and you felt like you'd been in a wrestling match, and he could really, really do it.
Mm-hmm.
Jack was one of my favorite. But all our champions were good. If they weren't good, they didn't last long.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that time, the wrestling office was in St. Louis, and they got a big percentage of the gate, St. Louis did, for booking the world champion out. And when their money went down, the championship changed.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Right.
can tell you some champions didn't last as long as others. Harley Race was a great champion. I love wrestling Harley Race. There's so many, I wrestled so many world champions I really can't remember.
I saw him wrestle twice when I was 12 with Dory Funk Jr. And they did 1 hour time limit draws, in both towns, and I was 12 years old. I was 72, right? I was 10 years old. I was 10 years old. And I mean, we just sat way up in the rafters with everybody else, sellout crowds.
Was that in Alabama?
Broadway, in Macon, Georgia, and Columbus, Georgia.
Okay.
And Macon, they still hold the attendance record over Elvis Presley.
Right.
I mean, that's how big. So I mean, back then that was grueling, hard mat wrestling like you don't see anymore.
Who was the Columbus promoter? I forget what was his name.
Fred Ward.
Fred Ward. Okay.
Yeah, great guy.
Right.
Great guy.
So, when was going back? Was there any thoughts of you, because you were such a good baby face and everything? Was there any plans of putting the belt on you at any time, or?
Yes, but the closest I ever came was a North American Championship. I held that, and I really didn't want to travel that much. I had 4 sons, and I wanted to be with them. And that world champion, it was a real load to carry. Believe me, you had to be a special kind of person because you were never at home. And I really didn't want that belt. I was world champion for 1 week one time though.
Really?
Ric Flair for 1 week. But I wouldn't do that schedule for anything. I love my kids too much and want to stay at home. And I was lucky enough to stay in Georgia for 8 years.
Right.
I homesteaded. I was a fireman there for 7 years.
Oh wow.
And I had more people would come by, show me this, Bob, show me that. I got a lot of workouts at that fire department.
Right.
People that wanted to wrestle, so I was a homeboy.
How political was the whole NWA title bout? I hear stories. Was it true that I guess Von Erich, or not Funk Sr. was he pretty much in charge of that belt back then? I heard a lot of stories in the 70s.
That's true, but everybody put their 2 cents worth in. For instance, Eddie Graham was a Jack Briscoe man.
Right.
He pushed Jack Briscoe. Everybody had a sponsor. It's kind of like when you go to Japan. Everybody has a sponsor. And the sponsor that made the most sense, made the most money, got the world champion.
Who did it really come down to? Was there not one person?
It came down to Jack Briscoe and Dory Funk Jr., so they put it on both of them.
Right.
Yeah, they both held it.
At what time of your career, in, I guess late 60s or ever, did you feel that you became a draw when outside territories? Did they bid for like a superstar wrestler to come to their territory?
Certainly.
At what time did you realize, like maybe, wow, I'm making it in the business, or
Well,
wow?
I'll tell you exactly when. I got an offer from 3 territories, from Vern Gagne, from Eddie Graham in Florida, and from Charlotte. George Scott was doing the booking, and I flew and had meetings with every one of them. And I realized, well, I had no idea. I was a homeboy, fireman. And that's when I quit the fire department. I realized that a lot of money could be made in this profession. And I drove myself crazy for 3 weeks. And finally, my wife and I looked it back and we talked about, and Nick Bachman was telling me about the snow and the fun in the snow, and I'm not used to snow. And George Scott was telling me about, we've got 3 or 4 states up here. And I thought, gosh, that's traveling everywhere. And Eddie Graham said, you'll come down with Bill Watts, we'll fly you everywhere. They chartered.
Oh, they had the plane, yeah.
So I took the whole family to Tampa and had one of the best years of our lives.
Did you ever fly with Eddie Graham? Terry Funk was telling me some stories.
Did I ever? I flew with him constantly. And they would pull the biggest jokes on us. Our other pilot was an old pilot from the Korean War named John. He was a great guy. He'd take off the plane, go to sleep, and let me fly. I learned to fly. I learned to do it all except take off and land. And he and Eddie, we were going to the Bahamas one time. We're halfway over, and they started talking about that damn Bermuda Triangle. And everybody got a little shook, and we're 2 planes flying side by side, and all of a sudden they both just dove straight. You're talking about screaming, yelling. It was Eddie and John had put that up, right?
Right.
They planned that at the same time. I watched the other plane over there just as we went. I was watching him on top of it. It was, big joke, but everybody threw up. Yeah, big joke.
Were you there in Florida? Who died on the plane? Was it Buddy or Buddy Cole? Was it?
Yeah, I was going to.
Buddy Cole didn't die.
No.
It was actually
Bobby Shane.
Bobby Shane.
Bobby
died,
Shane.
And Gary Hart was on the plane.
And I had come down there to wrestle Bobby Shane. That's who I had come to wrestle. I had come from Atlanta, Georgia, because we had a good program there. We wrestled each other. And he was smaller than I was, and he was a great bad guy. To be so small, he was a great bad guy. So they bid for that match. We moved down there and went and watched him pull him out of the bay. He never got out of his seat. He was deathly afraid of water. I really hated that about him. He was deathly afraid of water, couldn't swim. But Buddy Cole made it, and
That was in Tampa at that one.
Tampa, Florida.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, Terry Funk used to say one time he was in the flight with Eddie Graham, and he was drunk, and he was so drunk he went off, and he ended up flying, and he was in Epcot Center in Disney World or something, and he looked over and like almost got like in jail.
We flew through Tampa. It was so foggy the night that Bobby Shane got killed. They turned them away from the airport. It was so foggy. So when we came in, we were 30 minutes behind them. And we came in and he said, this is EG 713. And they said, oh, sir, the airport. He said, I said, this is EG, Eddie Gray.
Right.
All right, if you can find it, land it.
Wow.
So we drove around, we flew around, and we all were looking for lights. Don Morocco, I'm sure you know Don. We all were looking for lights, and finally we saw a light. And darn if Eddie didn't put that thing down like a great, smooth as silk. And next morning we heard about Bobby Shane. So I went down and watched him pull him out.
Wow.
Shane.
Going back to Alabama, what were like the hot towns, or what town did you like to work the best? What did
Birmingham.
you? Birmingham.
Always
Boutwell.
Boutwell always do it. A hot place. Birmingham. Mobile was good, but a rough place.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when I was a bad guy there for a year, they'd have the SWAT team come down at 9:30, just in time for the main event to take me to the ring and back. I slapped Brad on TV one time and got death threats. I couldn't stay at the same hotel. They wouldn't let me.
Right.
It was too much. It was tremendous heat just from slapping the pretty boy's face.
Serious heat.
Serious. Oh gosh. So they'd have the SWAT team come down, take me to the ring, wait on it. We got to be good buddies.
Wow.
So that's how Mobile was hot like that. Let's see. Montgomery was a so-so town.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of little towns that would sell out for you. That
Dothan.
Yeah.
Dothan was very, very good town. Did our TV there for Continental Wrestling there for years.
Was that the farm center,
The
farm
farm
show?
Yep, that's right.
That's where Brad, was that your first match or your second match? Your second
That
match.
was my second match. My first match was in
Montgomery.
Montgomery
That's
on
right.
the 4th of July.
Wow.
They swerved me. You guys swerved me.
What happened?
They said they want. I'd been working out in the ring with Dad a little bit anyway, and growing up with 3 brothers, we kind of already knew how to wrestle.
Right.
So in the living room. So, but Dad had actually been in the ring with me, and I was trying to get the feel of the ropes and the I don't know, just the tackles and slams and whatnot, trying to get used to it. We started to go, or they were going for the weekend. They were going to Montgomery on Friday, and then they were doing TV in Dothan on Saturday. And so Dad said, "You want to go with us this weekend? It'll be fun, you know." And I thought, "Yeah, all right, that's cool." So I'll go with them. It's Robert Fuller and Dad and Joe LaDuke, and said, "Just jump in the van with us." I thought, "Okay." So I'm starting out the door to leave. He said, "Where's your gear?" I said, "What? Why should I bring my gear?" You know? And he said, "Well, a good wrestler always has his gear. No matter where he goes, he's always got his gear with him."
Right.
So I thought, okay. So I just threw the gear in the car. I didn't think of nothing. I didn't think anything about it. You know?
Right.
So we got to Montgomery, and I'm in the dressing room bullshit with all the guys, just hanging out. And Robert Fuller comes running in and he goes, "You got your gear with you?" And I went, "Yeah, it's in the car." And he said, "Great, the first match didn't show up. You need to get it and go on first with Jerry Brown." And I'm like, "Jerry Brown, the Hollywood Blondes, Jerry Brown." I'm like, oh my gosh. So the walk from the dressing room to the car to get my gear was like the longest walk of my life. I'm like, oh God, I got to wrestle. I'm not ready for this. I just keep repeating, I'm not ready for this,
You never are.
So I went to the ring with Jerry Brown, and I'll never forget, he was probably technically one of the smoothest wrestlers, putting me in and out of holds and top was like a hammerlock and headlock and takeovers. And I knew all these moves, but I didn't know I could do them.
Right.
And I especially didn't know I could do them that well. You know what I mean? And later I learned that I wasn't really doing them that well, but he was that damn good.
Right.
So I always thought, man, I want to be like that one day. One day I want to be able to work like that guy, man. But it was an experience I'll never forget, but it also didn't allow me the time to get worked up over it, to get nervous about it, to get, to anxiety, and, I just went right and did it. Right. So after that first match, that's kind of started from there, and did TV in Dothan the next day. So,
Bob, obviously you love professional wrestling. You've been in it for 40 years. How proud is it for you to have your son, and how proud were you that his first match watching it?
You know what happened to me? I was watching that match, and before I knew it, I was halfway to the ring amongst the people, and the other wrestlers were pulling me back. I got so excited for Brad that I just started getting closer and closer. Do this, do that. Ooh, watch that, watch this. And they came and got me and said, "Bob, come back, come back." I really didn't realize where I was.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the crowd already.
Right.
But I was very excited for him, very happy for him. And the reason I didn't want any of my boys to wrestle. I'd been through so much hell and high water. I didn't want any of them to wrestle. But I went the way Brad was working. What was it, Barnes?
I was a stock boy at the Jitney Jungle. That was the local grocery store, Jitney Jungle.
I went up there to see him, and the boss said something that was really, that I wanted to knock hell out of the boss. And I said, "Bull, listen, I'm gonna make this kid a wrestler." I just didn't like the way he was being talked to, and that guy was overprotective dad, you know. Instead of beating the hell out of the guy, I just told Brad, quit the job now. And he started. He caught on very fast. A couple of dislocated shoulders when he started, you know, which happens to everybody. Yeah. Right away that happened, and then he got better and better. And finally he got so good when Flair would come to our area, our territory, he would ask for Brad. Mm-hmm. It would always be me and Flair, 5 nights in a row. 5 broad, oh God. And he was one of the greatest champions we've ever had and the smoothest we've ever had. But he admired Brad so much that he asked for Brad. So that made me feel happy as a father.
How, growing up in the business with your father as, you know, the legendary Bullet, how is that as a child? Like in high school? I mean, obviously your friends know your father's famous and all.
Everybody knew. Everybody knew me as, they might not know my name, but they knew my dad's name.
Right, right.
It was like, his dad's a wrestler. His dad's a wrestler.
Now you were
even the football coaches were like, his dad's a wrestler.
Right, right, right.
And everybody knew.
And back then,
right, like that was something.
Right.
I mean, nowadays, you know, pretty much anybody can be a wrestler.
It's like, oh, you're a TV star now.
Anybody can just order boots on the internet, you know. But he was actually, I mean, he really was. There weren't many channels back then. He was on one of them, you know. Nowadays there's a million channels and wrestling's on 3 or 4 different ones, you know. But it was a big deal, man. It was a real big deal.
And you would go to all the matches, right?
As many as they would let me go to.
Okay. I didn't let him go to a whole
lot.
I didn't let him go to a whole lot of matches because there were, you know, kooks out there, and I didn't want people to know where I lived.
Right.
I didn't use my real name. I just tried to keep my family away from the business as much as possible. I just felt like it. Some people feel differently. I was probably overprotective, but that's exactly the way I felt.
Right.
I just wanted to protect my family, and that's because you know, I've had people follow me home before back then because the show I was on, Live Atlanta Wrestling First, was the most popular TV show in Georgia for 11 straight years. Mm-hmm. Then they got in a big argument, and Ted Turner came and said, "If you boys will come with me, I'll never move you. You'll have that Saturday morning spot." So we all went with Ted Turner, and the show was so strong that back in that day, nobody young, remember, you had to have a special attachment on top of your TV. UHF, I think it was something like that.
That was the Georgia Championship Wrestling on TBS. That was like, what, 80?
Exactly. Yeah. So everybody had to order. Atlanta ran out of those things to put on TVs, and we had a lot of elderly fans. And the old folks home called and gripe, like, what the hell happened to our wrestling, this, that, and the other.
Right.
So they got a big order from New York, and we sold it. It became the most popular Saturday morning show. Right. And from then on, Ted Turner was a heck of a wrestling fan.
Isn't it true that Ted Turner, the only reason he got his start in the TV was because that wrestling show succeeded?
Well,
that's what I heard.
He was having a hard time. That's one of the reasons. He was having a hard time. He had a very small studio, half the size of this. It was
tiny.
Or maybe 1/3 the size of this building we're in tonight. Mm-hmm. It's very tiny. But when he took the wrestling, it shot through the roof. His ratings shot through the roof.
Right.
And every Saturday morning, you know, it went crazy for him, and he stayed with wrestling for a long time.
Going back, just keeping timeline with everything, in the 70s, what other territories did you work in? Yeah, I mean, you did the Alabama. Where'd you go from there?
And I did the Florida, and I visited around, and they booked me out a lot because that TV, Ted Turner's TV became so popular. And because of Brad right here, Brad made me a lot of money because Roddy Piper and I got in an argument. They had an invitational tournament, the old Omni in Atlanta, and we invited teams from everywhere, and Brad and I ended up winning. So Brad took his winnings, bought him a white Corvette, and Roddy Piper said something that really irritated me, and this is a shoot on TV about Brad buying that white Corvette, and the rest is history. Roddy and I we didn't like each other very much, in other words.
Right.
He was young and big mouthed. He was talking about my son, and I didn't think he had the right to do that. He won the damn money to buy a white Corvette if he wanted to, you know. And that Roddy was butting into my family business, and so I didn't like that, so we had a pretty good run there, but I visited everywhere. I wrestled in Philadelphia in the first match they ever had in that Spectrum. Didn't they tear that Spectrum down?
No, the Spectrum's still up. They use it for like AAA hockey and the soccer.
First wrestling.
I think it was 74 they had the first Spectrum.
Right, that was the first, and our TV was so strong, Eddie Graves at the time, it was flooding the north. They invited us up to that.
Who'd you work? Do you remember?
I worked with Jimmy Jimmy Valiant.
Jimmy
Weighed
Valiant.
at the time 290 pounds. Can you imagine that? See him now? He
More
was
than a third of
200.
that.
That's right. I worked with him in a great house. I think he drew around $60,000 back then.
Right.
But the TV from was real strong from Florida in that,
Right.
at that time.
Then did they do where they would run a lot in Ohio and stuff like that? Isn't that the Georgia Championship?
Eventually,
Yeah,
yeah.
eventually.
Not then.
Not then.
Not at first.
Eventually that happened. That
Yeah,
started the war. That started the war when they realized how strong that TV was.
Right.
And Brad and I were the first ones to go.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Grand Rapids, Michigan, I remember, and the crowd was so crazy we couldn't get off the stage to the ring. They were pulling our tights, and the announcer, he was a boxing announcer, he'd never seen people that excited.
Right.
He said, "What's the matter with you people? Let's get the show." And we finally got to the ring, they had to get a police escort, Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah, Grand Rapids, Columbus, Ohio, West Virginia, all that area. You had no idea that the Superstation had that kind of impact. I mean, you realize it was cable, and you
Right.
didn't understand what cable was at the time. You know,
Right.
Or how far-reaching it was.
It was just the birth of it.
When you
so.
showed up, it was like, oh my God! It was like, whoa, they know who we are. You know
Right.
what I mean? We're doing.
You're
this in a
surprised
little-
when you got off.
We're doing this in a little studio in Atlanta, and these people in West Virginia are coming out of the hollers, going, "Hey, oh my gosh, man!" It's impressive. It really is amazing. So.
Going back to Bob, back to Florida. How did you like Eddie Graham?
I loved him.
Mm-hmm.
I loved him.
And what year was that? Did you go in? Was that
70? 74.
Yeah. Dusty didn't come in till a little after that, right?
Who's that now?
Dusty.
Oh, yeah. Well, Dusty was, he was in it about that time. In fact, it was so good that they put Dusty in one town and Don Morocco and I and partners in another town. They had two big towns every night in Florida.
Right.
And then we would change towns every once in a while. I
Mhm.
was working with the Hollywood Blondes, who he had his first match with.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how good a shape Eddie had it in. He was like a second father to me. He would have sponsored me too for the world title if I'd asked him. But I
Right.
stayed down there with him and loved him very much.
How did you like that territory? Who were some of the guys down there that you worked well with?
Oh, we had, in Florida, you mean?
Yeah, that you made your
we
best
had a group.
money.
We had Don Morocco, who was my partner. We had Dusty. We had Gary Hart was the manager. We had the Mongolian Stomper. We had Richard Blood for a while, who turned out to be
Steamboat.
Steamboat,
Yes.
right. We had one of the best crews. I got down there and I looked around at all the talent. I was amazed. No wonder he sold out everything. Miami, 16 sellouts in a row.
Mm-hmm.
When I wrestled there to see who wrestled Rich, they had 16 sellouts. And I thought, oh, they shouldn't put me in the main event. Sold out again. Didn't matter. Didn't matter who was the main event. It was just, Eddie Graham was one of the best promoters in the history of the world, no doubt about it.
True or false? Eddie Graham, the best Finnish guy in the business?
The best I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Is it true that maybe not rival promoters, but other promoters from other territories would just call him up on the phone when they get in a jam?
They all did that. They all would do that. They would call, a lot of times they would have a meeting on the phone. They'd call and get ideas, because
Mhm.
everybody gets burned out if you stay in the same place. And promoters don't go anywhere, wrestlers do. So
Right.
promoters would call and get fresh ideas, and he was a great mind.
Right.
Great mind.
Who would you say was maybe, you could have on the right side, good guy promoters, and on the left, maybe the shady guys maybe you wouldn't want to work with? Like, who were the best territory promoters at that time? And who were maybe some that maybe you wouldn't want to work for?
Jim Barnett was a great promoter. He came into Atlanta, and I had been there for years. Like I said, I spent my first year before everyone had to go out of state. And when he came, my first paycheck jumped over $300. I didn't know the guy. He's from Australia. He made a fortune in Australia. Came and bought out Atlanta.
Right.
But I liked him right away.
Yeah.
I liked him right away. He's one of the better people. Paul Bosch from Texas was noted as a very good payoff man.
Mm-hmm.
And those two are probably two of the best
Right.
I can think of right now.
Would, any thoughts of working for Vince Sr. at that time, or no?
I talked to Vince Sr. many times. I had nothing but respect for him. Anytime I'd ask for Andre the Giant when I was booking,
Mm-hmm.
he'd say, Bob, when you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Andre insisted on riding with me.
Right.
Because he liked me. Thank God he liked me.
Right.
Andre was a funny guy. If he didn't like you, don't mess with him.
Yeah, I heard about that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he'd always ride with me. And the funniest thing I ever saw was coming from Augusta. He'd already had a case of beer, and we were only 100 miles out. And the beer looked this big in his hand. And some guys, some of the wrestlers rode by, and they stuck their big ass out the window and mooned us, and he said, oh, Bob, you'll catch up. I said, what are you going to do, Andre? Oh, you what? He pulled his big britches down, opened the door of my Cadillac, and his ass was this far from the pavement. I said, "You gonna burn your head?" "No, it's okay." Those guys in that car, they were cracking, and it was a giant moon. It was a full moon.
Right.
And he never forgot that. I love that guy. I really miss him.
How the business has changed so much. Any instances back then where with the fans or any going out in public, like any situations with the fans that you could talk about, or it was just like insanity where you couldn't believe, like with fights or?
Oh, back then there were riots. There were riots back then. I had a guy, after I slapped Brad's face, there was a guy that made it through the SWAT team, believe it or not. A big guy, he made it through the SWAT
In Mobile?
team. In Mobile, and I saw him coming, and I just raised my arm, and I got enough of his shirt to take him down, and he kept hitting me in the crotch.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't hurting me because I had on my tights and the cuff and everything, and I was pounding him away, and finally the cops drug me off of him, and he threw his knife over his head, but the announcer went and got it. But it was a switchblade, it never opened. If the switchblade had opened, he probably thought he was stabbing, but it never opened.
Wow.
They brought the knife back, they took him right to jail. So there were riots constantly.
Right.
And, we had a guy get his eye knocked out. The very next week after that happened, a guy got his eye knocked completely out.
Really?
Yes, I got 16 stitches, he got his eye knocked out. I had to go
Wow.
to court over that one. Had to go to court and tell exactly what happened. And they set the guy with no eye. And he wouldn't wear any course in court because he was suing for hundreds of thousands.
Right.
And he ended up getting $100,000.
Wow. What I heard in Florida that sometimes the Bahamas was pretty rough.
Oh, yes.
Bahamas was really rough.
I think they used to have like a fence around the ring
Yeah,
or something.
It was an outdoor arena.
Right.
And it was a brick wall around the entire arena. There were trees outside the brick wall. And so most of the time it would just sell out and there would be people all in the trees. I mean, you could just look out and see people, the trees full of people looking over the walls.
Wow.
Kevin Sullivan and I, this is the one time that it really chilled me. Kevin Sullivan and I in a singles match, we were circling each other before we had ever even touched, before the bell had just rung, and we're circling each other in the ring. And a 32-ounce family-sized keg of ketchup bottle. I mean, a glass, back before plastic, you know, a glass ketchup bottle just went and scooted right through the ring. It came from way out, somewhere out there. And Kevin looked at me and said, "No heat tonight, brother." He said, "You beat me right in the middle." I said, "Oh, whatever you want, Kev. I'm with you, pal. Just stick together, man." And we didn't go long that night. 5 minutes, that was about it.
How political did Dusty get with Eddie Graham as time went on in Florida?
Well, whatever it is, they kept it private
Mm-hmm.
because Dusty was a huge draw,
Mm-hmm.
and Eddie was a smart man. He knew where the money was, so they managed to get along very well. Actually, if they didn't have any, if they had disagreements, they didn't do it in public. So they kept it, like I said, the territory was in so good shape. Why stir it?
Right.
So
Was Eddie Graham, I guess, bringing him along to take over, I guess, the company, do you think?
no.
Or Mike?
No. Eddie Graham was for Mike, and
Mm-hmm.
his son is the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't bring him on and take, no, that's completely false.
Now, you've done a lot of, obviously, behind-the-scenes office work. When did you first start learning and looking towards the business, not as a wrestler, but almost as a booker or as a promoter? Like, was that early on in your career?
Well, I guess I was lucky. I bought 10% of the Gulf Coast region. I bought 10%, and they offered me a deal if I'd come book it and work there for them. And
What year was this?
this was in like 1978.
Mhm.
78. And so I bought it and never knew I paid it back. They just took it out of my pay. And of course, everybody said you're buying a losing proposition.
Who was the owner then? Was it
It
the
was
Fullers?
the Fields brothers.
Oh, the Fields brothers.
brothers.
Was that Ricky
Fullers.
Fields? Was it-
Ricky Fields,
Mhm.
his father, they all owned it, but they had, they'd been there a while and they were getting burned out. And, so we bought it, and I bought 10% of it. But they told me, everybody said, you're buying a loser, but after the first month, I brought Brad and all the boys down there. We went to the malls and bought everything we wanted. I think people like seeing the new talent. And whoa, there's something new guy. The new guy on TV, who is that guy? Who's this guy?
Mhm.
And within a year we paid for it.
So did you enjoy originally the whole booking aspect?
No, never did.
No?
But it was my job and I did it. I hated it. It's too much responsibility. It's too much babysitting, too much dealing with egos. I was lucky I had a few people skills, and I tried not to make any enemies. I tried to make everybody happy, which you cannot do that. But I don't know of any enemies I've got in this business right now. I respected everybody, but I really didn't enjoy it because I never had any fun because I was the booker.
Where was some other spots during the 70s or even early 80s that you enjoyed going to? Did you, for instance, you work Japan?
Yes, I worked in Japan. I worked in Nuki's first tour, and after that, because of that, Brad got to go over there quite a bit. Nobody would go because there was only one booking, and that was Giant Baba. And
Right.
everybody was afraid to go because they will kill you in Japan, and it's run by the mob, and still is. And we took a friend of mine, Daryl Cochran, and a couple more guys, and we got a couple of Mexican boys that went that didn't know the history of it. And we had security around us to every match, ton of security. Stayed there 6 weeks, only wrestled about 12 times, but he got Inuki's foot in the door, and he became just as big as Baba. And Brad went there several times because of that.
What other places did you go that you enjoyed wrestling? What cities?
Mostly around the South. Mostly, I loved Atlanta because I was a hometown boy. I loved Atlanta. I loved Columbus, Georgia, and Macon, where Brad was telling you about. We beat. They built a big, huge building there in Macon, Georgia, and then didn't know what to do with it. Big, gorgeous. It's still there. And so they brought Elvis Presley, and he drew 7,600 people. When I wrestled Dory Funk and Brad came, we drew 8,200. We outdrew about 600 people.
Wrestling, you can fit more people in the building.
And then it went on the map. Then wrestling got on the map. So Columbus and Georgia had towns that would draw you money all over them. It really got popular, and everybody wanted to come to Georgia. And Georgia got to see all the superstars. We saw all from Dick the Bruiser, you name it. We've had them in Atlanta.
Did you ever work Detroit?
Never.
Never.
No.
Did you ever work Calgary?
Never.
No.
No. Didn't have to.
Didn't have to.
A guy told me, an old timer told me one time, said, "Kids, stay at home when you can. You make a lot more money when you stay at home." I wanted to go places. I wanted to do things, but then after an 8-year stay in Georgia, I realized I hadn't spent any money on the road. You know?
Right.
I put all this money in my pocket, instead of hotels and all that like they have to do now.
Did you work for, I guess, Leroy McGurk, Watts area?
Oh, yeah. Well, in fact, I had a chance to go out there too, but that territory was so huge.
The drives were
And
ridiculous.
the drives were ridiculous. Like I said, I was a homeboy.
And I heard the roads were bad at that time, too.
Oh my gosh, there were 2-lane roads.
Yeah.
And it barely paved. Louisiana was awful.
Right.
I mean, honestly, we used to go to Shreveport and Baton Rouge and New Orleans and Oklahoma City and Tulsa and Little Rock, Arkansas, and those were all drives.
Yeah.
Houston, Texas, and it was like, you would literally finish your match, drive all night, so that and show up in time for the show the next day.
Right.
I mean, that was for Bill Watts. That was after McGurk, of course, but that was for Bill Watts, and the drives alone. I mean, mind you made a lot of money, but you earned it. You earned it.
Did you know Watts Bob in Florida as a wrestler?
Very well. I knew him very well. In fact, I went there with him.
Right.
He came to Georgia, and he had me and Tom Jones, which was a black guy. He wanted to try to draw some black people, so he teamed us up with the black and white team, Salt and Pepper, and it got over really well. So he wanted me to go to Florida with him, so I did. And he was the booker when I went to Florida.
Watts was real big on that.
Yeah.
I would book with JYD.
Yes,
Oh yeah,
all that.
he was.
How high was JYD in the Southeast in '82?
Brother,
Ridiculous,
man.
right?
He didn't have to do anything, brother. He was over so strong, and very few people could get heat on JYD. I mean, you didn't. The people just believed in him so strong. He was just hot, man. God Almighty, he was over. I was in New Orleans several times when they tried to get heat on him, and it would just get quiet. And that's not good heat.
Yeah, that's bad.
That's dangerous heat right there.
Yeah, I heard it's that territory is pretty bad. ECW used to run there.
Yeah.
And we used to run in Homa and Thibodeau.
Oh yeah.
And I was just a cameraman, and I was getting hit with stuff. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I could imagine. Midnight Express said our cars would be on fire.
Oh sure. Yeah.
Did you do the Superdome shows?
Yeah.
What did they draw? I mean, nobody.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know numbers, or I don't know. I wish I could have. I wish I remember figures. I know Muhammad Ali was at the Superdome. I was on the show, but Muhammad Ali came down to second Butch Reed, working with Jake the Snake.
Wow.
and the referee turned his head and Ali knocked out Jake the Snake. And I mean, it was a punch. I mean, and the whole place lost their mind. It was like, oh my God. And later on, it was like, Jake, it came back. I said, I can't believe that was the best looking punch I've ever seen in my life. And he just winked at me. I'm like, oh, I don't believe it. I mean, it's like the greatest of all time. I'm like, he just winked at me. I thought, holy mackerel. Amazing, but they did draw incredible crowds.
Yeah, a lot of people would leave that area after those big crowds because they drew so much money, and after every big show they drew, wrestlers would filter out because they thought they didn't get enough money for their payoffs. That's how big the crowds were. You could look for them in another territory the next week, and they would get so mad about the money
with Watts,
they would leave.
Right?
Yeah.
How was he like the tyrant everybody says he is?
Well, he's. Then again, if he likes you, luckily he always liked me. He took me with him, and I made nothing but money with him. He saw that I made money. I did. If nobody else did, I've just been blessed. And he was a tyrant. He stayed with WCW, and he saved them $500,000 the first year he was there. But he was such a tyrant, nobody liked him, so they didn't renew his contract.
Right.
That's right. He scared the suits to death.
Right.
He scared them all to death.
Really?
He was a big burly. It was like, oh my God.
Right.
But he was. He run a tall ship, man. No doubt.
He certainly did.
No doubt.
What do you think was the best run territory that you were ever in?
Well, Florida, I think.
Florida?
I think Florida, but Georgia ran a close second. When Watts came in, and Watts came into Georgia first, and he set the tone for running a tall ship, like Brad was saying, and then he went from Georgia right down to Eddie Lamb and ran the ship for him for a year, and made nothing but money both places.
That was what, late 70s?
Yeah, 73 and 74.
74.
Yeah.
What Brad, when you started out, how hard was it? Did your father let you into the business? Did he keep like a tight lip about the business to you, or how much did he bring you into the business, especially like when you were in high school or something like that? Did he let you into the secrets of wrestling?
No. That was back in that day. It was a no. You didn't do it. You didn't tell anybody anything. It was I always loved wrestling, and I never questioned it. And at school, I actually had fist fights with kids defending it. And to this day we'll defend it. So don't start any shit with me, pal.
Right.
I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. But I really did. In like 7th grade, I had fist fights with this kid over wrestling. Anyway, but yeah, I worked out with him in the ring for, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I still didn't know.
Right.
The next day I got up, I was like, oh God, he's packing his bag to go to the next town. And the day before we had been in the ring, and I was like, oh Dad, and I'm 17, 18 years old. Like, oh my God, how do you do this every day? My God. And he just looked at me like, damn son, and he's putting his boots in, like he's going on. It's like, oh. I mean, eventually I caught on,
Right.
I was around a lot of talent, so I was a lot of talent. I was fortunate enough to wrestle a lot of talented wrestlers,
Yeah.
which really makes you a better wrestler. So,
What's the age? How old is your other brothers? What's the age? Are you the oldest?
Scott is 45. I'm 44.
Okay.
Steve is 43, I guess. No, it's 42. 42, and Brian.
38.
Nobody really knows how old. Brian was born in '69, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So
I can't remember so many of you.
So Steve's the oldest?
No, it's Scott.
Scott's the oldest. Did he get into business before you?
No.
You were the
I
first.
was the first, yeah.
You were the first.
Yeah.
Did all your other brothers have the love for the business that you did?
I don't know. They loved the business, yeah, but I was the one that would stay awake and wait till Dad got home when I could hear him come through the door, and I'm like, stick my head in the bedroom, he'd be unpacking his bag. I'm like, did you win?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Did you bring me a program?
Right.
I was the one who wanted to get everybody's autographs. So,
right.
I mean, and I wish, one of these days I'm going to dig around and find those autographs and sell them on eBay, by God. No, I'm kidding. I was a fan. I used to record Dad's interviews off Live Atlanta Wrestling with a little cassette recorder before VCR tapes and all this VHS stuff. I wanted to hear, and that was the Bobby Shane angle that he was working. Yeah. That's what intrigued me. It was that angle. I was so into it. And Bill Watts was Bobby Shane's partner on several occasions with Dad. I mean, it was just, it was, I don't know, I was just mesmerized by it, and I still am, and it can still be good. It's just not right now.
Right.
You know, and it's not as good. Let me say that it's not good. It's just not as good.
Going back to your first year in the business, working in Alabama and everything, who did you work the most? Who were you programmed with? Who did you learn the most about? Who took you under his wing?
Norvell Austin taught me a ton.
Right.
I don't know if you know that name.
Yeah,
Norvell
the
Austin.
PYTs.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Norvell Austin, because we do a lot of nights. We did 30 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I go on every show every night, 30 minutes. And I look back and I've seen him recently and thanked him. You know,
right.
Going, you must have been pulling your hair out, you know, having
Mm-hmm.
to work with me. Who else? Ted Allen was fantastic and still is to this day.
He was here today.
Right, he was here today. Ted Allen is still fantastic. He was great back in the day. I'm trying to think who else. Dennis Condrey.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis Condrey is still fantastic, but I've learned a lot, you know, from a lot of guys like that. Jerry Stubbs was good.
Did you have any problems starting out in your first year since, you know, your father was the Bullet? Anybody take like advantage of that, or, you know?
Not that I'm aware of. You know,
right.
I mean, I still don't think anybody took
right.
liberties with me or anything like that. But I just no, I don't think. It was tough being Dad's son because it was a awful big shoes to fill.
Right. Can we hold on 1 second?
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking more about JYD off camera.
Right, yeah, probably the hottest good guy that's ever been in the South, without a doubt. But he came through as I was booking and I was doing my TV in Dothan. He came on the way and he said, "Bob, you mind if I wrestle on TV with you? I'm headed out to Bill Watts and they're going to try to do something with me there." And I loved him to death. I'd met him before. I said, "Sure, Sylvester." And we went on TV and he did a job for somebody and thanked me a lot for using him. And he said, I'll let you know if I make out okay. He called me about a year later and said, "Bob, I made out okay." He was just a great guy. I loved him to death.
Did you ever work for Fritz von Erich or Dallas?
No, never did.
Did Dallas? Did you ever
do
do
all the boys, but I never worked out there.
Never did Amarillo or?
Never did.
No.
Never did. I just, I was a homesteader and I didn't have to go anywhere to see the superstars. That was a good thing.
They came to you.
They came to me, and so I got to meet them from Dick the Bruiser, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any old timer you can name and think of right now, I can guarantee you I've seen him.
Right.
Or worked with him.
Right.
And
once that TV started going in Atlanta, I guess early 80s, how big was that and how much, I mean, TV was always used to draw the houses, but when that TV got going, how big did it really get?
oh, it was tremendous. 40-something states, and we didn't realize till they got a map that showed how many people watched that TV station.
Mm-hmm.
And they were amazed. And Ted Turner said, "Well, I don't see why we can't send our wrestlers up there."
Right.
Like I say, Brett and I, we led the charge. We were there, and we were top guys, and so we went up there and worked it. We opened it up. And I used to see the guys from Vince Sr. On the trip. What's Pat's?
Patterson.
Pat Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
We'd see each other at the cruise, see each other, and Pat said, "Come over here, Bob. How'd y'all do last night?" You know.
Oh, yeah, we ran into him several cross
It wasn't
paths several
anything with the
times.
guys, you know, it was the promoters. We were just wrestlers. We were doing what we were told. We weren't trying to make anybody mad, but obviously we did. The war started, you know.
Right,
and
right.
It was a big thing then.
What was your job title during that time? Wrestler?
I was wrestler, assistant booker.
Assistant booker.
Yeah.
How did it ever come about? The one time I read in the magazines the night, I guess it was WWF title against NWA title. Was it Backlund versus Harley Race? Was it, or Harley Race and Ric Flair? It was a July 4th show in the Omni. How did that ever happen?
I remember that, but I don't
I
remember
don't
the
remember
ending.
which
I don't
one.
remember how.
You're right. It's one of those
I remember them doing that. It was a
What
great
was it?
idea. I don't remember the outcome.
I don't remember that.
I really don't.
Because Bruno came down and worked with us a lot in the Omni.
Mm-hmm.
And when I worked that first show at the Spectrum, he actually invited me to come and work New York.
Right.
And when I finished,
So you worked the Garden?
Never worked.
No.
Never have. As far north as I got was the Spectrum
Right.
in Philly, and that's about as far north as I got.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody, Steve, my brother Scott, my brother Brian have all worked the Garden. Me and Dad haven't.
Mm-hmm.
So Vince,
What were some of the integral feuds of Georgia Championship Wrestling that that was your responsibility, like your creation?
Yeah.
What were some of the stuff that you really enjoyed that came from your mind?
Just different ideas. We'd have committee meetings and I'm not bragging, but they'd usually accept my ideas. I'd just come up with something that made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Something that was fairly logical, and they'd always say, let's go with that.
Mm-hmm.
And being on the road, I had to handle all decisions, and if egos clashed, I had to make it right when we were traveling, and we weren't used to traveling that far.
Right.
We were all over the place up there, and I had to get all the tickets together, carry all the tickets, make everything ship shape, fly back early from, and take it to the office, and I hated that with a passion.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go work out and have fun, but one of my workouts turned deadly up there, and the weights fell on my face.
In West Virginia.
In West Virginia.
And Logan. Was it Logan?
Wheeling.
That's right.
What happened?
The weights flipped up, and the bench flipped up, and the weights came and took my nose off and broke my face all to pieces. They didn't have anything in Wheeling, West Virginia, so you and Ronnie Garvin and Pez Watley.
Me and Ronnie Garvin, Pez Watley, and Dad were in a gym, and we were all bench pressing. And Dad was always big on pullover presses, and Dad did easy curl bar and tons of weight on it. He always was very strong that way. He did pullovers and then press outs. It was a chest, a rib cage expander, and a tricep movement at the same time. And we heard the clank. I mean, it was a loud boom.
Right.
And I looked over, and Dad's feet were up in the air, and the bench was up in the air. And it was like, oh my God, man. So we were running over there, and Dad stood right up, and which really shocked me because I'm thinking he should be dead. He should be on the ground. And he stood up, and he said, get me to the mirror. That was one of the first things he said, get me to the mirror. I went, what? Sit down, Dad. No, it's fine, because his face, his nose was literally split open. I don't want to get too graphic, but you can edit that out. I could have put my finger in the gap, and his nose was peeled back, and he said, no, give me the mirror. And I said, Dad, really? He said, needless to say, I got him to the mirror. He went like this. He went this way, and with his nose, and he went, yep, it's broken all to hell. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's broken all to hell. So he sat down on the bench, but it wasn't like spewing blood. It was just kind of thick drip. Boom, boom. So the guys at the front desk of the gyms called 911, and we're trying to keep Dad calm while I'm freaking the frick out, know. And they came with the ambulance, took him to the
Ohio Medical Center.
The old.
We ended up there, yeah.
We went to the hospital. They actually turned him away. Said, "Oh, we don't do that here. We don't do that here." It's like, oh my gosh, by this time his face is swelling like it's crushed both cheeks. The nose is shattered. Everything's shattered. I mean, it was you were 7.
They had to put a black. We went into one doctor's office. I remember the kids screaming. They had to put a black piece of cloth over my face,
like
to lead me around,
like the freaking elephant man. I'm not kidding. It was like I'm not an animal. I'm human. Honest to God, it was what. Right. I mean, people were shrieking. Like it was horrifying. But Dad was alert and with it the whole time, which I thought. I was stunned by that, but he was in intensive care, and I had to go wrestle. We were supposed to wrestle that night in Wheeling, and Dad's in the emergency room, not the emergency room. Dad's in intensive care, and I had to leave there and go wrestle and try to function, wondering how he's going. So I went back after the matches, went right back to the hospital, and he's not in his room. I said, "Holy shit!" I'm thinking the worst, So. He's down in some other ward. They had operated to line up his nose. They had cut a piece of X-ray film to know that it was straight. Line up his nose and try to reset everything. And it was about a week. A week we were there. Yeah. He was in the hospital for about a week there in Wheeling, and we finally flew home. And Dad said right before we left the hospital, go buy me a hat, go buy me a baseball cap that I can pull down. Because he had to fly, then to wait for the swelling to go just a little bit because of the air pressure. So we're walking through. What was it? The little kid looked up like, "Oh my God, look at that guy!" We're walking through the airport, and I'm literally having to guide him because he's still his eyes are black, everything. He's got the hat pulled down. And had you ever seen Frankenstein before? You know, it was like, oh my God, people were still just gawking, you know. But they turned it into an angle,
right?
You know, they said that Ted DiBiase had jumped him in the parking lot, and then I had a year run with Ted DiBiase over, you know, retribution for Dad, you know. So, but it was a freak thing, you know.
Do you think it was too early, or do you think it was a mistake to put the NWA title on Tommy Rich at that time in his career?
It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't meant to last long.
Right.
It was just something for a change, and it was good for Georgia.
He was hot though. God Almighty, he was on fire.
He was a firecracker, and I love Tommy to death, but he didn't have the credentials.
Right.
He couldn't carry that belt.
Right.
He had great fire and could work his ass off, but he just didn't have the what all the other champions had, and I don't know how.
They all had something special.
Right.
Every champion we've ever had something special. That little charisma. And Tommy's was good, and he was great, and I love him, travel with him, and everything else. But he didn't have the power to carry that for very long, and he did. It was great for Atlanta.
Yeah.
Who do you think was the best NWA champion at that time, Flair or Harley Race, for that company?
I'd never pick one of those guys because I love them both.
Yeah,
they're great matches. I would never pick one of those two guys. One had they were both completely different type workers, but as their type, they were excellent. They were excellent, different types. I could go an hour with either one of them, never be breathing hard. That's how good they were in their different types of wrestling.
Were you working in the company, I guess, or Gulf Coast when Hulk Hogan came around, when he was a rookie?
I wrestled him in Marietta, Georgia, and they said beat him, and I was so embarrassed. I said, I'm not going to do that. That guy's too big. I hooked his arm in an arm bar and just walked away, and Charlie Smith said, what are you doing, Bob? I said, ain't nobody in this building going to believe I can hold this guy's arm. It's so huge,
Did you use him in Dothan?
Didn't they have Hogan Andre in Dothan once, and they had it on some kind of videotape? I think they had Hogan versus.
I don't know if they had him, but I know when Harley Race wrestled him there, they sold the building out and the parking lot out just to wait to get in the building. Wow. They were selling tickets out of the trunk of the car. They sold the building out, the car parked and waiting for. And Roy Welch sold tickets out of his car to go to wedge into the building. It was magic. Hulk was magic.
Yeah.
What was the transition for Georgia Championship Wrestling to, I guess, like Crockett? How did that come about?
Now, what do you mean by that?
Well, there was the Superstation with Barnett and everything, and then it turned into like an NWA Crockett. How did that World Championship?
Yeah, that's right.
How did that transition happen?
Well, money. It was all about money. And Crockett had the money. And too bad he lost it, but he had the money at the time. I traveled, Brad and I in '86, we flew all over this country in his Learjet, and had a good time, but he spent money recklessly and finally lost it.
Do you think if that didn't happen, how long do you think Georgia Championship Wrestling would have
still be going?
I think so. I think honestly, Ted Turner would probably still want to be involved with wrestling. I mean, he's a Southern boy from the get-go, and not that that's got anything to do with wrestling, but by God, NASCAR and wrestling go together. But, you know, Ted Turner was a Southern boy, and wrestling made him some money, and he was cable before cable was cool, and he really, I mean, you know, it was just, I don't know, it was impressive in the early days, you know, really impressive to be around Ted Turner because he was there a lot.
And he'd bring all the movie stars back to see us.
You know, you saw him there on a daily basis, you know, and that was impressive.
He'd come through with Raquel Welch.
Yeah, we walked through one day with Raquel Welch, and everybody's jaw hit the floor. Like, she was like, even then, I don't know, she was probably 40-something then, but she was hot enough. Oh, yeah, she was beautiful.
But no, he'd come back and say, hello to the boys, honey.
How heartbroken do you think Eddie Graham was when Dusty left for Crockett? I hear a lot of stories where, you know, like we did an interview with Billy Jack Haynes saying that, you know, Eddie Graham, you know, wanted to kill Dusty Rhodes because Eddie Graham's infamous for carrying a gun, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, how heartbroken was Eddie Graham? I mean, I'm not, nobody insinuate that was the reason that's what happened, but I mean,
I understand, but I really couldn't give you any info on that because I wasn't there.
Mhm.
You know, I don't want to talk about rumors. If I knew, I would tell you. I just don't know.
When did you first see the signs on the wall when Vince McMahon started taking everybody? And did you think that was going to be the death of the territories?
No, I thought they would always be territories. I didn't see how they could operate without it until the magic of TV and you know, taping programs and send them here and send them here. But I should have seen it because we taped our shows and sent them out everywhere, and even in Dothan, we sent shows everywhere. It was magic. So then the guy with the best product came out on top. You know, and WCW ran out of money. I thought there would always be competition. And Vince himself, I've heard him say that, you know, maybe he shouldn't have bought WCW. Let it run a while longer. Competition is good for everybody.
Yeah,
Why do you think
competition
you
is.
got 3 outfits now? They can work against each other. Competition is good for everybody.
Yeah.
I'll say this about Vince McMahon. He's done more for this business than any promoter. A lot of people got upset with him for this or that, but he has put this business in the public eye more than any promoter I've ever known.
That's the truth.
I ain't just saying that because my sons are working for him. I admire what he's done, and nobody's ever done that. Now, in my 44 years, it's never been in the public eye as much as it, and it's available. He's made it available now to everybody.
Mhm.
And so I just look at what Hulk Hogan did for him. He took Hulk Hogan and made him a superstar, not in just our country, of the world. Right? One of the most recognizable figures in the world today. And that was Vince McMahon Jr. That was his idea. And so he filled his dad's shoes very well. I'm sure he's proud.
Going back with the Vince taking over, what was the first signs you saw that Vince was doing that, taking over the business pretty much? What was
They called our office and said, we're going to run the world.
really?
It's that simple.
Who called the office
We knew
and
that.
said Vince McMahon?
No, I'll tell you exactly who said it because I was working in the office. Terry
Garvin?
Terry Garvin.
yeah.
He said, well, get ready, boys. We're going to run the world. Well, we started the war. They finished it. You know, so it happened. But he said, we knew then we were going to do something good. So the competition lasted a while, and I loved it. I enjoyed the competition.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, all the promoters would say, and all the bosses said, we're not in competition with those guys. Well, what the hell? I mean, you were in competition. You wanted to draw more people than the other guy.
Is there anything you were seeing that they were doing going, well, I wish I thought of that?
Oh, sure, every time. And we did a lot of things too that they back and forth. We fed off of each other. He just had the better product.
Mm-hmm.
He had the better product by far.
Yeah, he had the formula. That's what
He
he
had
had,
the
the
formula.
formula. You know, I was with WCW when my little brother was with DX and WWF at the time, WWF. And that, you know, head to head, Eric Bischoff hated Vince McMahon. And,
Right.
I mean, literally hated him. And,
Right.
and they would, you know, he would somehow had a stooge for Vince in Vince's office where he would get the finishes, and Bischoff would literally like broadcast the finish.
Yeah, like 2 minutes before.
Right,
Yeah, I
before it
saw
was
that.
happening.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's
That's
just,
below the belt.
That is below the belt. You know what I mean? I don't know. I had a problem with that. But in WCW, all the guys would find a TV, you know, or a monitor somewhere.
Oh, they were watching.
To watch their show.
Right.
And Brian told me that WWF, they were all finding a monitor to watch our show.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and then Brian and DX and all of them came down to our. To the
In
offices.
Norfolk, was it?
No,
Oh, in Atlanta the one time. Yeah.
To the offices in a tank, you know, this
Right.
is war on WCW.
Right.
You know, I love that.
Right.
I thought that was fantastic.
Right.
I mean, good. That's good head-to-head competition, man. And competition brings out the best in both of us. You know, I mean, both companies. You know, because people get more creative when there's competition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when there's no competition, people tend to they rest on their laurels. You know, they tend to lay back and they don't push the envelope. But that competition made it great. I mean, that's later than what he was speaking of earlier. But you know, I've got the DVD of
The Monday Night War.
the one that Vince put
Yeah,
out after he bought.
That's good
and you
stuff.
know what? My wife said, "Oh, you know, get rid of that." I said, "You know what, honey?
If you're not a wrestling fan, you
I
can
wanna
watch
keep-
that.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can watch that.
I want to keep that one. That's just a personal thing. I want
Right,
to keep that.
right.
One, you know, so
Right.
just one of those things.
Going back to early on with you, Or now going back to Crockett's, I guess, and when they started taking over, Dusty and the Starcades and everything, and they started to get their national push. They were like the number 2, I guess, maybe number 1, going back and forth. What was Crockett's mistake in '86? When you guys were both there, or maybe going into '87?
I don't know. Crockett had a lot of good talent.
Yeah, he had the best talent available.
Right.
He had the best talent available. And
Do you think because they tried to get out of the Carolinas, that's when the problem started, when they started going to LA and stretching it, or?
Very, very possibly, because we were on a lot of those trips, and some of the houses were very poor. Probably weren't as strong out there as they thought they were, because we were there. We saw the houses. Yeah. And every once in a while, we drove a heck of a house. We went to El Paso one time, and we drove a big crowd in El Paso. And we went across to Mexico with Hawk and Animal, had some great Mexican food. But that was still south there. But when you get to LA and farther out there, you're not as popular out there.
There were just certain areas of the country that Vince ruled. You know, the Northeast mainly.
Yeah,
for
sure.
He always dominated. We couldn't touch him.
NWA is Philly, and then Philly South was good, but you couldn't even.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think he overtaxed himself, spent way too much money. And he made Lex Luger he made him that huge offer, and then had to call him in and tell him, I can't pay you. He didn't pay Brad what he wanted to pay.
Yeah, there were several contracts that he didn't that Jim Crockett didn't fulfill. And
Towards the end.
Right, towards the end. And that's,
Of course, Brad got his money. I don't think Lex did.
No, I think Lex got pennies on the dollar,
He got pennies on
But my contract was considerably less.
And my nephew's a lawyer. His first cousin's a lawyer, so one letter's all it takes. And the rest of his contract was paid.
Yeah.
In cash.
So,
Bobby, at that time, I guess you were saying your age. Probably at that time you were 47, and then you came back and you were wrestling full time on that scale with NWA. I guess you guys teamed in the Crockett Cup the one year and everything. Did you enjoy wrestling at your age?
I loved it. I loved wrestling with Brad, especially because we were hot, and there were no father and son teams out there like very popular at that. None that I knew of anyway. That were being exposed like we were, and it was good. It was the second. We flew all over the country in that Learjet and had a ball. And by golly, I did go to Canada once.
We did go to Canada.
And Canada, I forgot about that. I'm so damn old, I forget about that.
Yeah.
We got to Canada on the coldest day there, 0.
Yeah, and they hated us.
And
We were the baby faces, and they hated us.
Everything was switched.
We just completely switched around.
It was really
And
funny.
worked heel. Like, well, okay, let's just go with it. They're dictating to us now, so screw it, let's work with them.
I remember getting so mad because I bought a pack of cigarettes and they said, "Be $5.55." I said, "I only wanted one pack." I said, "That's all you're getting."
Yeah.
When the plane caught on fire, it was amazing.
Yeah,
My
of course.
Canadian trip was amazing. I'm glad you jogged my memory.
There were
The plane
several
caught on
moments.
fire 12 miles from the landing strip, and
Oh, really?
I jerked the seat. I
Oh,
first
you-
had to jerk Lex out. Lex froze. I said,
Rick,
"Get up, Lex."
Rick
get up."
Rude went running to the back for his
everybody started
pharmaceuticals.
Being an old fireman, I was gonna find the base of the fire. I had to just jerk Lex out of the thing. I ripped the seat out, and smoke was boiling, and the plane was bobbling, and the pilots were screaming, "Sit down, we'll be there in just a few minutes. Put your head down and not kiss your ass goodbye, but where you can breathe better." And sure enough, we landed with the plane. Smoke filled everything. Manny Fernandez called Dusty and cussed Dusty like a dog, like that was gonna do some good.
Right,
with the
that
plane
was going to
smoking.
fix the plane.
Send another plane, and they fixed the plane, and we got back.
How, as a booker, did you agree with the, I guess, Dusty finish? And do you think that hurt Crockett's booking in the towns at that time?
No, I don't think. If you've got good characters, let me tell you about this business, and I feel like I can because I've been around long enough. If you've got good talent, they can get anything over you want. Talent makes a difference. You got good talent, you can make anything happen. The finish doesn't have to be that damn good. You got good people, they're gonna make it good. They'll make it right for you. So it's a combination of, I've seen territories that had the best talent in the world do mediocre business. And change 1 or 2 guys out and make the perfect fit, and it goes through the roof. I've seen what I call the perfect territory. Didn't understand why it wasn't drawing good business. Traded a few out here and there. It happened to me in Georgia is what I'm talking about. I couldn't imagine a better crew than we had in Georgia at the time. yet everything was 3/4 sold out.
Mhm.
We had Bob Orton Jr. We had, you name them, we had them. The perfect crew. Just 3/4 sold. Good business, don't get me wrong, good business, but not sold out. That's what you always look for, sellouts. Change 2 or 3 faces, everything went through the roof. So, you know, this business is not always that easy to figure out, as people, as any booker well knows.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the things you think people aren't noticing gets over better than anything you could ever think of. And things happen by accident, like me and Roddy Piper. Had an argument on TV, started a real serious, just me and him getting in an argument. People knew I was serious, knew he was serious, and it made me money for a year.
Right.
And I never did even work to Carolina. They just sent my interviews there about Roddy and him about me. And I'd go to that Greensboro Coliseum and get a standing ovation. Never had worked it, just walked down the alley. Holy mackerel. And they said I know I'm sounding like I'm bragging, but this was told to me, when they would play my interviews about Roddy at their TV stations, the people would all stand up and applaud me.
Wow.
I've never even been there. That's the power of television.
Right.
That's the power of publicity for you.
You know, the thing Roddy said was like about me buying the Corvette. You know, we won the national tag team titles at the tournament, and you know there was a Japanese, Masa Saito was there with Mr. Fuji. I mean, there were you know teams from all over the world. We won that tournament in the Omni, and I couldn't have been 20. You know,
No,
at the time.
you're 18 or
18 or 19. You know, so. It was a big deal, and he was like, "Yeah, you're making, you know, Roddy, you know, in his Roddy way, Roddy fashion. Yeah, you know, he's making money. He's doing good. He's doing well. You know, he said, and he spends it. He just blows it on a Corvette. He said, you know, something along those lines. And the famous line that I'll never forget is Dad telling him on the show, and this was perfect. It was like, you know, Roddy, this is all mind over matter. I don't mind, and you don't matter. You know, and it was like, whoa, I was thinking, God, I wish I could come up with stuff like that. You know, and I to this day can't come up with that stuff like that, but he can. You know, and that just got over, and it was a good angle. And this is totally off the subject too, but I want to get in there while it's fresh in my mind. When you said Eddie Graham being the best finish man in the business, you know, at different times in history or in different time periods, this guy right here. And I know he's my father, but I'm not saying it because he's my father. Can give you a finish that quick, and maybe you learned from Eddie Graham, and I'm sure you did from being around
Learn from everybody.
But you pick up a little something from everybody, I'm sure. But he is the best finish man I have ever been around, and I've worked with some of the best. And, you know, Bill Watson, and I've been around Eddie Graham at the same time in his later years. You know, Dusty Rhodes, I mean, all these guys. But my dad will come up with something that, and even if somebody comes up and said, "Hey, here's what we're going to do," it's like, "Bing, bing, okay." And Dad said, "Why don't we do this and boom, boom, just change, just tweak a little bit," and it's like, "Yeah, great, that's great."
All I did was copy, buddy.
Yeah, well, no, but and honest to God, I'm not saying that because he's my dad. I'm saying that because I can't do it. You know what I mean? I can say, "I'll just schoolboy you," you know. Right. But he can dress it up and make it, you know.
Only because I had to.
Yeah, so it's.
I had no choice.
I'm sorry. I know that was a little off the course, but I wanted to get that in.
During the time of Crockett, Watts sold his UWF to Crockett, and
we went out there.
You went out there. You and Tim.
Right.
Won the belts. You were almost like an outside team.
We won the belts from Sting and Steiner.
Right.
Rick Steiner and Sting.
Right.
You know.
And then you lost it to Adams and Terry Taylor in the Omni, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
What was it hard being an outside team, an NWA team going to that Mid-South region still, and being on that UWF TV as like an NWA team? And do you think it was a mistake that they never did UWF versus NWA? Do you think that could have been a hot
I think that could have been great.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could have been great. But at the time they would send out superstars from like the Mid-Atlantic area and quote unquote hot shot our shows, and then take the superstars back, and then our houses would drop. And not that I don't, you know, say that that's one person's fault. I'm not pointing fingers. And looking back on it now, I understand how they do that. They wanted a big house and they got it, you know.
Right.
But I just think it left us flat when
Yeah.
pulled them back.
It absolutely does. And the booker, I'll tell you, that's exactly what it does. You draw one big house, then you suck.
And we, you know, we struggled, and that's where the Jim Crockett, the contracts came in, because we were guaranteed more money than we'd ever even heard of. You know what I mean? It wasn't a lot of money.
Was that when they were moving the office to Dallas or something?
Bingo.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Moving the offices. And we moved to Dallas.
Really?
I had my truck repossessed. I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor with no nothing but a TV and a mattress in the apartment.
Right.
And that was the biggest contract I'd ever been offered in my life.
Right.
And that's when I had to call my cuz
Right.
and say, you know, Shark, I need you to,
Yeah,
I need you
wow.
to circle. I need you to circle because I need some help, you know?
Yeah, that
So-
was the end. That was the end.
And that's, you know, that was it. And many a phone call to Jim Crockett and say, hey, you know, you guaranteed us this money.
And I'll give you an example
Yeah.
of how that happens. They sent me down to, Tampa was sucking. They sent me down there and I ran Bill Dundee's. They were drawing like $3,000. I ran Bill Dundee's head into the cake.
Mm-hmm.
We went to $12,000.
I love that.
No, I'm sorry. We went to $21,000
Mm-hmm.
from that. So then we sent all the superstars down to St. Pete because it jumped that much with just me doing that. And Brad was with me. He was on the card with me, and sold out St. Pete from 21,000 to about 100 and something.
Bayfront Center. Right?
Yeah, and after that, we all left and went back, zipped right down again. We got the big house, and we did it in 2 steps.
Right.
Head in the cake, 21 from. No, I'll tell you exactly what it was. I'm sorry. They were drawing $7,000. The head in the cake deal, and I said, he's the man from down under. You're going to go way down under. And boom, in the cake jumped from 7 to 21. And then the next time we brought Dusty, the whole crew, Hannibal, Hawk, me and Brad against I forget who. But it sold out the next time. And we all left, went back, territory went right back.
What do you think was another death of the? Do you think I guess it was in, early '86 when the NWA champion stopped touring the other territories. Like they cut him from going to World Class, they cut him from going to maybe Portland and stuff. Do you think that hurt the territories too when they didn't have that
Sure.
traveling
Yeah,
champion?
I think so. I think that they had a great formula, and when they started changing it, you know, that old saying, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. And it wasn't broken; it's perfect back then.
What, do you think possibly because the Sam Munchniks, the Paul Bosch's, the Eddie Grahams, they're dying or retiring? Do you think
Sure.
that's the promoter?
Certainly.
That's
Yeah.
Because they had an ironclad grip on it,
Mhm.
and they kept it right, and it was just done right to me. Of course, I'm an old timer saying this,
Mhm.
take it for what it's worth, and I was there and I lived it, and I loved the way it was run.
Mhm.
I love to see the world champion come to town because everything sold out.
Mhm.
No matter who he was the world champion.
Did the world champion get really? What did they get? 10%,
13,
13?
I think 13% and 3% went back to the Mushnick office. But that's a lot of money in a year.
Who-
All the world champions get rich.
Who was the best drawing world champion?
Hard to say. In their era,
That's really hard to say.
all you can do is sell out a building.
Right.
And
Right.
then you
And
can't
I think
draw
they
anyone
all
to
did
build.
that.
They all
I
did
think they
that.
all did that.
What do you think was the strongest of the territories, the 70s or late 80s? Because 70s was really not as much TV as the 80s. But did the 70s draw more than the 80s generally?
Yeah, much more.
Yeah, I think so.
Much more stories told, and I watched it all happen. It was magic.
Mhm.
Magic.
There's a DVD going on now. It's the Heroes of World Class Wrestling. And in this, they stated that in 82, when the cage match with the Freebirds, the Von Erichs with the head in the cage, that they revolutionized their TV product, that they were the hottest thing in wrestling at that time. And were they the talk of the wrestling world as
Oh,
they
the
said they
Freebirds.
were in 83?
The Freebirds?
No, the World Class company. The
World
company,
Class.
not the Freebirds, the company.
World Class from Dallas.
Yes.
Right, okay, yeah, they were hot. They
They
were
were very
definitely
hot
hot.
at
They
one
had a
time.
good crew.
Mm-hmm.
Was Gino Hernandez out there?
Yeah,
Was,
Gino.
He came in 84. 83 was Freebirds, Von Erichs, then Gino and Chris Verse was 85.
Yeah.
But that's when they started doing the music. And I guess
Right,
Watts
that's right.
took that over.
Watts took that over, yeah, with the Rock and Roll Express.
I was watching an old UWF thing. You're talking about the Bischoff Monday Night War. They
Yeah.
something on that level, but they did it in '86. I never saw it. I just watched it on DVD. It was when Watts went and took over and was going to Dallas. And they go, well, we're going to come in here with the superstars this company had. And they showed a picture of Reunion Arena. And we're going to go to world-class buildings. And and just like burying Fritz, because that's when all like Curry was hurt. And I was like, I couldn't believe how underhanded it was. Yeah. But going to the Von Erichs, the Armstrong family, successful family in wrestling, probably, probably the most successful if you really look at it with down south there.
Longevity.
Yes. Yeah. What is your opinion on the Von Erich family?
I love them all.
I thought they were all talented. I really thought David was probably the most talented. Kerry, of course, had the best physique in the business, Luger included, in my opinion, because
he was great.
Kevin was good. They were all good in their own right. They just I don't know, they had a different perspective on it. And I don't know where that came from. It was just maybe
it never leaked out. They were just one of the guys.
I'll tell you,
great guys.
The family that I most wanted to work against were the Guerreros. I mean, because when Gory was still alive, the father was still alive, and I worked with Chavo Sr. and I worked with Chavo Jr. And I worked with Hector and I worked with Eddie and I've never worked with Mondo, but they had the makings of an Armstrong Guerrero thing, the sons and the father,
Right.
And then, Gory passed away, and I thought, well, still we can put Chavo Sr. in there and put Chavo Jr. in there.
Right.
We can still do that. And then that was just my fantasy. It was like the family thing. To me, I think people identify with that. I think people identify with a family, and I always wanted to do that, but it just never happened. And I didn't have stroke enough to pull it off somewhere, but those guys are very talented, and I think we would have gelled perfectly. I really do. Is
it true that David Von Erich was going to get the title at that Texas Stadium show?
There was talk of that. He was
just a rumor.
There was talk of that. He was a great worker. He really was.
He was very
good. I was in Japan several weeks, well, actually 2 weeks after he died there, and it was a real somber. Very somber. Just a weird feeling, because I heard the whole story about how they, found him, and it was just sad. It really was sad.
What's your thoughts on Bruiser Brody in Puerto Rico?
What are my thoughts on Bruiser Brody dying in Puerto Rico?
And what's your thoughts on Bruiser Brody?
Oh, I love Bruiser Brody. When WCW, or I guess it was it was Georgia Championship Wrestling when we started going to Ohio and going to when it first started going. Bruiser Brody came in. Well, I had the honor, and I say this with all honesty. I had the honor. I worked with him in every town for the whole 5-day run, and he beat the living. No, don't get me wrong. He worked with me, but he did hardcore stuff way before hardcore stuff was cool.
Right.
He had a table and chairs in the ring. He had a table in the corner, and I thought, oh dear God, what's he going to do now? I'm just going to take the table in the corner. I'm just going to take a big turnbuckle in the table. And I tried my damnedest to break it, to hit it as hard as I could. And he liked that. And the big boot outside, he did it all to me. And honest to goodness, I thought, God dang, this guy's, he was great. He really was, because he knew how to work that animalistic big guy gimmick.
Right.
He really knew.
He looked like a legit tough guy.
He wasn't one of those guys that wouldn't sell because I was a small guy. He would let me catch him, with things like bing, and he would reel, but always take back over, But he went over every night. That's not the point,
right.
But he should have gone over every night. He was freaking Bruiser Brody,
right.
But we used to go up there on a Monday and fly back on Saturday morning to do the TVs. And I was driving a little Porsche at the time, a little 944 or something. He came to me after working all week, up there. He came to me and he said, how you going to, as we landed in Atlanta, how you going to TV? And I said, I'm driving, my car's out here. He said, can you give me a ride? And he treated me great in the ring and all that, and I really enjoyed working with him. But when he asked me for a ride, dude, I thought, maybe I've earned his respect. Maybe he sees me as an equal. You know what I mean? I'm just entertaining thoughts in my head, but I said, "You damn right I can. If you can fit in a 944, brother, And sure as shit, he fit right in. He got right in, and he went." And I had an interview that day, and I was nervous because I always got nervous when the camera came on if I had to speak.
Were you nervous on live TV too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's when.
Dad, and Brian, Road Dogg, they can go, and Scott can talk, but I was one of those ones that got nervous about things. I just wanted to make sure the words came out right and that kind of thing. But Brody rode right well. I told him I got an interview today, and he said, "Oh, brother," he said, "Man," he said, "you know what? You're a natural. Your dad's a natural. Your whole family's, a wrestling family." He said, "Man, the nerves should, he talked to me. He spoke to me all the way there to the TBS studios, and I had to let him out like around the back so that they didn't see because he was a heel and I was a babyface, but." And I remembered that just almost like calming techniques, that made me realize well, maybe I am, because I always thought that maybe I wasn't worthy of having airtime. I wasn't sure about I doubted myself, but I don't know. He just was a great guy, and the way he died is wrong, and I truly believe what goes around comes around. And it's going to come around.
His child calmed him down a lot. We did a spot at Six Flags, and I brought me and him and Jerry Lawler and Bruiser Blackwell. And he talked to me for 2 hours about his son, and he talked about Philadelphia the whole time. Said he took his young son to show how some people live. And he took him to Philadelphia and Detroit, and while he was up north, he carried his young son with him. He said, "See how these people live? They have no desire, took him to the downtrodden." He said, "I want to show my son, Bob. I don't want him to end up like that." He was so sincere that Big Ape talking to me like that. And I was saying, there's another part of this guy that nobody knows.
No, that's true.
That's true. 2 weeks later, he was dead. Couldn't believe it.
And then the guy, from what I hear, the guy wore the towel around his neck like a badge of freaking honor.
Right. Well, he still works. He's a baby. He's like a booker. Still working.
Yeah, and
I heard that.
That's just wrong.
That's wrong.
That's wrong, and I truly believe in what goes on.
I never went to Puerto Rico because they asked me 1,000 times.
They asked me too, and I never would go.
We used to go with Eddie, and we'd have a ball. Me and Dick Slater, they had all the beautiful San Juan. Oh gosh, it was a beautiful place. Gambling casinos and whores, most beautiful whores you've ever seen in your life, and just gorgeous people and women. And we'd go stay a couple of days and come back. But then when it broke
how much did they charge back then?
I'm
just kidding. I'm just kidding. Mom, I hope you're not watching.
because I didn't pay a penny for that.
I think Dick Slater was actually a part of my next question. Is it true that Watts fired him for getting beat up by a fan? I heard Watts beat up.
I don't think there's a fan on earth that can beat
Dick
Slater's ass.
Was it Dick Slater or was it somebody else? Didn't Watts fire somebody around that time because the fan beat him up? I forget who. Maybe it wasn't
Buddy Landell, but it wasn't Dick Slater.
Take our word for it.
No, didn't Dick Slater beat Lyle Zato's ass or somebody else?
Really?
Well, to tell you a little story, we were Eddie Graham's hitman. And I would go in and I'd watch his back, and if anybody came into Eddie Graham's territory in the Florida wrestle, Dick Slater would kick their ass, and I'd keep everybody off of it. If anybody else jumped in, I'd take care of it. We'd get off the plane, he'd say, "Boys, I got a job for you. Such and such bar, Bruce Cabot, something like his last name. He's a such and such bar. Bob, you just make everybody think you did a job, Bob. He was a godfather. And so we'd go to the bar, and when it's always coming in, they'd run out the back. They didn't. They got their ass kicked, and they folded up their tent and left. So Eddie Graham never had any competition. Maybe that's why he was so great. But I loved him. I loved him to death. But we've done that. I did that many times with Dick Slater. I'd have him on my side in any fight in the world.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. Dick Slater is the man.
Is it true Landell was he supposed to get the belt and he no-showed?
Oh, I don't doubt that at all.
That's
Man,
the
they're-
He was supposed to beat Flair in Charlotte or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
no
typical,
shit.
typical.
He copied Flair to a T.
Right.
And honestly, on the microphone, he's fantastic. I mean, really, in the ring, he was good, very good too. But on the microphone, he was fantastic. I mean,
Oh,
a
he was a
talker.
talker.
He was a talker, buddy, and I mean, he could throw it out there.
And that may very well be true. In fact, that's jogging a memory bell here that,
Yeah,
he just liked not to show up. I think it made him feel big
or powerful.
or
Or
he wanted
something.
a reputation. Business is not, in professional wrestling, is not caring if I do or I don't.
Right.
And they put all their apples into him, and he turned the apple cart over. So it didn't work.
What I guess the demise of Crockett. I guess when Jim Herd came in, and when did you know it was over? That part of your career, your part of your career. Did you hope?
I left.
Did you retire at that time?
No, I
No.
never retired.
No.
I haven't retired yet.
Jim Herd was a frozen pizza salesman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's common knowledge. Is that correct?
Yeah,
mean,
I
did you
knew
know
he had
that?
something to do.
He had a friend that put him in that spot, and I don't think he knew what he was doing.
Who was the guy that ran the Omni? Was that Kip Fry then?
Kip Fry didn't.
I'm getting them all confused. Yeah.
No, but I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, me too. But yeah, Kip Fry was around at that time, but Jim Herd didn't. He didn't have a grasp on wrestling, at all.
Right.
And so he got a lot of heat.
Mhm.
He got a lot of heat with the guys.
Mhm.
And
But the secret is, wrestling is a business, but it can't be run like a business.
no,
It's a different kind of business.
Right.
When we sold our territory, we kept the Continental and the Southeastern for 10 years and made nothing but money. And we sold it to a guy who owned a TV station.
Charlie Platt was
No.
that? No.
Charlie Platt was our announcer, but we sold it to a guy named Woods who had.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, David
He
Woods.
owned a TV station, could plug it all he wanted to for free.
That was like 1988 when they got. It was on Philly. It was in Philly on FNN Score for a couple months,
Well,
and that's when
how long
Eddie
did
Gilbert
you
and
last?
Paulie came in as bookers.
How long did you last?
A month or two.
And he still owes me $600 because
So,
we
by the way,
sold him the territory, but he apologized to me, and I hold no grudge because he thought he knew the wrestling to run it like a business. It's a business that you can't run like a business. It's a contradiction within itself.
It needs current and former wrestlers' input. I mean, it definitely needs the business aspect, businessmen in that aspect. But it needs, in my opinion, humble opinion, it needs old time wrestlers, current wrestlers' input as well. And I think they need to use. I think they need to use.
Well, you
it
have to
all.
put everybody where they belong, where they're
Right.
best.
I mean,
Put
they
the
have.
publicity man there where he's the best at. You put the booker where he can handle the guy. You put the top guy. Everybody's got a place. It's just finding the right guy for that place. And when you get that right, you're going to have success every time. Never fails. Finding the right guy for the right job.
How close was that Continental territory in '88? I mean, it got pretty good. How close did it come to actually making that next step?
We went as far as we wanted.
And you know what?
All we did was sell out all our towns, and that's all we could do.
That was probably the easiest, most fun territory that I have ever worked.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing else.
Everybody
comes
wanted to
close.
be there.
Everybody wanted to come there. It was Pensacola Beach, man. It was,
Right.
when you go to Birmingham, it's 250 miles. You go to Panama City, it's 90 miles right down the coast. You drive along the beach the whole way. It's like, oh, this is beautiful. You go to Dothan, 150
The
miles.
secret was you never had to spend a night away from home.
Right,
Right.
you were
Unless you
home
wanted
every
to.
night.
Unless you wanted
I
to.
mean, there were guys. Terry Gordy came down there
Right.
and lived on the
Yeah, we were
beach.
just talking about that.
Rick McGraw, Quick Draw Rick McGraw was
He
down
lived on
there.
the beach.
He literally slept on the beach. And
Right.
me and my brother Scott would walk out there and we'd say, hey, Rick, wake up. It's 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning. He'd be tan as shit. He'd be just as dark as he could be. You know what I mean? And he'd like, yeah, oh, okay. He'd walk right up to the public showers right there at the beach, shower, come back, open up the quote unquote NWA party cooler. He had big magic mark, a cooler
This is
big.
Rick McGraw?
Rick McGraw,
Right.
yeah, Quick Draw, man.
Right.
He was the party king.
So what was in the NWA party cooler? Just beer, everything.
And then
Anything you wanted to
so
get
at
cold.
10 o'clock in the morning,
Oh my lord!
at 10 o'clock in the morning, we'd go right up to the pier, get a fish sandwich.
Fresh
You know,
Just in
fresh-
Pensacola, right?
Yeah, right up to the pier, get a fresh fish sandwich, boom, have that, and start drinking. And then by about 3 o'clock, you'd go right to the shower again, boom, 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 freshen up, and make the town.
Wow.
Yeah,
It was a great,
was-
Saito loved it, he stayed there.
yeah, Masa Saito,
Mhm.
you know.
He stayed there, and he finally left over $5 payoff, $5 difference in a payoff.
He left over $5.
Well, that's what he said, and he apologized to me for doing it. But he said that meant a lot to, that $5 meant a lot to him. Somebody got five, may have been Dennis Condrey.
Yeah.
I think it was Dennis got $5 more than he did, but to him it was like honor. You know, Japanese people, their honor
Yeah,
is
big,
a lot to them.
save face.
And I said, listen, man, I didn't do the payoffs. I refused to do them. I just did handle the guys that did the book. I said, I'll get you $50 more. I'd go and do that if I had to take them. Not the same.
Right.
So he left.
Right.
And he's the guy that got me booked in Japan, Saito. And that was another angle we worked, starting in Continental, or was it Southeastern at the time? I don't even know.
Well, the first 5 years was Southeastern, 78
Okay,
through
that was-
85, and then
Because
it turned to Continental.
somebody just made me a DVD and sent, and he came, he came out on one of my interviews. Your father scared me. Your father scared me, which in Japanese means your father's scared of me.
Right,
You know?
right.
Your father scared me. So, but and then so that was an angle that Dad and him had, and then we did it in Atlanta as well.
Yeah.
And they had judo jacket matches all over the place, and then about 89 or 90, I ran into him. They came over with Masao Hattori, the referee.
Mm-hmm. Tiger Hattori.
Tiger, right? They came over to Tampa at one of the shows, and they couldn't believe that you're Brad Armstrong. You same guy. I was like, yeah, man. He said, oh, you work for me. I'll come work for me. I said, yes, sir. I sure will. I'd love to. So I'm thinking, what was that? 89, 90. I had, I don't know, 12 years.
Right.
Maybe 12 years, and maybe 14, I'm not sure, but the last tour, and it was Hawk and Animal, they were over so strong. They
Yeah,
were
yeah.
over in Japan.
Yeah, they were killers.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
they were making so much money. And and I was too, I was making double and triple the money I'd make in the States, which
Right.
was
Yeah.
phenomenal. But they appreciate talent over there, and if you have some amateur background or
Yeah, it's different. Yeah.
technical, it's a respect thing. And nothing against Philly, because I know you're from there, but the little 12-year-old kids will be flipping me off in Philly.
Yeah.
Like, you suck,
Right.
But
Over there, they don't say anything.
over there, even if you lose, good fight, good fight,
Mhm.
good fight. You know what I mean? So it always was a respect issue, and I worked for Saito. He was my man. I mean, and if there was ever any discrepancy, I'd call Brad Rangens.
Brad Rangens in
and
Minneapolis.
And you're right. And him and Saito were like buddies, really tight. That was it, man. And I worked. I don't know how many tours a year I did.
Mhm.
But I made a lot of money with them, and they treated me like gold. I mean, they really did. I was very pleased. And Inoki, it was for Inoki's.
Right, New Japan.
New Japan, Shinny Han Progress. So, and then and I met Inoki several times, and he always, and it was like, I would always want to go introduce myself, but he always knew.
Right, yeah.
Please tell your father I said hello.
Right.
It's like, oh my gosh, so it was just very different, but God, it was so, the last tour that I was on, I was getting a little older, and they were putting me with younger guys who would kind of try.
Style changed too.
Style changed a lot, and they wanted to try to try you a little bit,
Mhm.
and I was getting a little older, and I'm like, dude, you know what? This is a 3-week tour, and
Yeah.
can we take it easy? Can you put me? And so they started putting me with Fujinami,
Yeah,
which was
like
like,
six
oh, that was
mans.
an honor.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no, I'll tell you, I'll give me Fujinami any day, man.
Yes.
So anyway, but that was I had a good run. So from stuff that we had laid the groundwork from years
Mm-hmm.
ago, so.
How? Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. No, I was just
Okay.
very fortunate,
Speaking of another family, another Southern family, what's your opinion on the Fullers?
I like the Fullers.
Mhm.
I've always liked the Fullers. Ron Fuller, Robert Fuller, Jimmy Golden's a cousin.
Mhm.
I've always liked those guys. They they always seem to have a spot for me if they own the territory or, you know, a place. They always seem to have a place for me.
Mm-hmm.
They always made money.
They
father,
right.
Buddy Fuller, I knew him well, wrestled with him. They always knew how to make money. That was important in our business because people want to go where the money is.
Right.
So I could say that I wrestled them a lot during my career, and they always made me money. And they offered me the 10% to just go look for them.
Right.
And so I took that, and I've never been sorry. In fact, I just wrestled against Robert, and I still got the bruises where we
just what last
Friday
week?
night, last night. It's just the day
What's today, Saturday?
Last night.
Yeah.
We
Sorry.
wrestled so much in the
Yeah,
last
sorry. Yeah.
Yes, so, it's been a long tradition, some good and some bad, with Armstrong, of course.
Going back to however were the Freebirds? Did you like the Freebirds?
Yeah,
Right.
I did. They were a bit wild at times.
Right. Were they hard to handle as a booker?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They drank. You know, a lot of them drank heavy.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
and not just beer. I'm talking hard liquor.
Yeah.
You know,
I heard that their house in Dallas. I heard stories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're all true.
They're all
They're all true.
Right.
And probably some you didn't hear.
And Buddy Roberts, he was Jerry Brown's partner as the
The Blondes.
Hollywood Blondes, right?
That's right.
And so he was a bit more so.
A bit to the left.
Yeah.
He was out there.
But
And then when they
Terry
had-
Gordy
Yeah.
Terry Gordy gave him hope, man. He was great. He was a natural.
Mm-hmm.
Even after he had his problems in
Japan,
Japan,
on the plane.
right, where he almost died, and he came back, and his speech was slurred and slow in the ring.
Yeah, we did an interview
Never
with him
missed a beat.
about a month before he died.
Really? His son works. His
Yeah.
son, you know,
Yeah, I met his
he's got
son the other day.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Gordy.
I'm so and so. I said, and I looked at his face and I knew that's his son.
Yeah.
I would have never picked him out, but when he enjoys.
Going back were you the person who, the infamous match with Steve Williams giving him 112 stitches to the
Yeah,
face?
I'm the guy.
What happened?
Are we rolling?
Yes, we are rolling.
Okay.
We are rolling.
Here's the dealio, dog. We were in Shreveport at the Irish McNeil's Boys Center.
The TV,
That's
with
where
the flags.
That's where we did our TVs. And I was working with Dr. Death, Steve Williams, you know, and it just one of those things where he shot me in for a clothesline, and he was way out. Like clotheslines should be shoulder to shoulder. That should crook the neck, you know, right there, bam. And he was way out, and he hit me about right here with his forearm. And when he did, as I was taking my bump, this elbow flew up. It flew this way
Right.
and hit him whack right there.
Ooh.
Well, I didn't feel it as much as he did, obviously, but he's so tough, it didn't even stagger him. You know, I hit the ground, I got up, and there was blood just pouring out of his face.
Where was the cut on his face exactly?
He had the eyebrow here,
Uh-huh.
inside underneath the eyebrow and the eyelid,
Mhm.
and underneath
Oh
the
my
cheekbone.
Jesus.
Yeah, 106 or 112. I don't know the exact number, but I've seen him several times since then. But what really, really scared me was that he finished the match.
Mhm.
We went to the dressing rooms, and the dressing rooms went upstairs, and they went in different rooms, but they connected in the middle.
Right.
So when he went on upstairs one side, I went up the stairs the other side. And I opened the door, and I saw him. He was sitting in a chair, and they were wiping the blood. Because he's Dr. Death, for crying out loud. He was legit AAU champion,
Right.
you know. I mean, like, I said, I'm sorry. You know, I'm leaving the door
Right,
open
right.
to give myself,
Running,
you know,
yeah.
at least a chance.
Distance.
Right, at least a chance to start, right? So I said, I'm so sorry. And as God is my witness, he looked at me, this swollen, blood coming down, he said, fuck it, brother, it's not ballet. And I went. I earned a respect for that. I mean, right then I said, "Oh, bless your heart," because he could have killed me.
Was he really had that reputation? He was pretty scary to work that first year or two.
Oh
right?
yeah, because he had just come out of college wrestling.
Tough as nails.
Yes, and he was the Dr. Death thing was legit.
Right.
I mean, Barry Switzer gave him the name.
Right.
Loud. You know, the Oklahoma badass. I mean, he really was the guy.
Just a couple things in conclusion. Who do you think is the top three tough guys in the business? And Brad, who do you think are the top three tough guys in the business?
Okay, Gene Kiniski, Jack Briscoe. God, I'm going to say those two champions.
Are you going to say in your era? Is that what you?
Yeah, I'm talking about in my era.
Okay.
Gene Kiniski,
Harley Race, maybe?
Harley, I guess Harley would have to be in there too.
Is he the worst driver to drive with? I heard.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
almost killed him several times.
we have a story.
I almost killed him.
Have we
in a
got
car.
a story?
Yeah.
Have we got a minute to tell the story?
Tell the story.
Yeah. Okay. I'm 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm driving Dad home from Montgomery or Birmingham,
Mm-hmm.
one of those long trips. Well, at the end of our trip, there's a 14-mile 2-lane road that we get off the interstate. Okay. Harley is driving. Ron Bass is in the passenger seat in the car behind us. And we know they're there, you know, but I'm driving. And I'm 18 years old, man. I just started and not just started wrestling and driving, for that matter.
Was it in the white Corvette?
No,
Oh,
it was
just making
it
sure.
was in a Plymouth K car. if you remember that far back. So all of a sudden, I said, Dad had a bad headache or something, or his neck was bothering him, and he was laying down in the back seat. And I said, Dad, this guy behind us is coming up on us pretty close. You know, this guy's really coming. So all of a sudden, he turns the headlights off. The guy behind us turned the headlight off, and I'm on the floor now doing as fast as a Plymouth K car can go.
Right.
You know, at the time, at 85 miles an hour, and it's just bouncing. And all of a sudden, boom, boom,
Oh, he's tapping you.
boom. Then he started pushing us.
Oh no.
So then he's pushing us, and I said, Dad, what do I do? What do I do? He said, don't let your hands off the wheel. You know, just keep it straight, keep it straight, keep it straight. And I can look in the back, and it's like planes, trains, and automobiles when you see John Candy laughing like it's just, you know, like they're the devil behind us. And that's Harley Race for
Right.
you. You know what I mean? That was, it was like, oh.
And he was a left-hander.
Yeah,
Right.
and he was a southpaw. Exactly.
Yeah, which made him double. So yeah,
Right.
it'd have to be Kiniski and Harley'd have to be one.
Well, he'd hit you with that forearm because he's got that metal plate.
Oh,
Is it true when the territory and Vince taking it over, when Vince was ran in Kemper Arena, Harley came in with a shotgun?
I don't doubt
I
that.
heard that.
That wouldn't shock me.
No,
Right.
don't shock me about Harley.
When we did the Harley Race shoot interview, I picked him up at the airport. We're on I-95, and I'm driving next to him. There's a truck, and like this, they had this aluminum stuff fell right off, bounced right over our car.
Oh,
Almost
my
killed.
gosh.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't have gone through the window, but it could have took us off the road. And I'm just sitting there.
He's running from Rex.
Yeah, he's-
I go, this is pretty ironic.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
isn't it
a
though?
little too much.
And he kind of looked at it and just shrugged it off like it was no big deal. I'm like sweating, like, oh my God, I just almost killed Harley Race.
Yeah, his body is like it is now, not from wrestling.
Just
Right,
car
right.
wrecks. Honest, but like the toughest guys that in my era, I truly believe, are probably Chris Benoit
Mhm.
for one,
Let's go along
and
with that.
Fit Finley.
Right.
You know, Dave Finley is probably one of the toughest guys.
What about Ming?
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that's kind of a given.
Yeah.
He's way up here now.
Yeah.
He's going to another
He would-
category
yeah.
here, buddy.
He would eat you, you know. I mean, he would kill you and eat you. So, but yeah, that's. But I think Finley. I wrestled him in Germany,
Right.
and we went 10 rounds. They do rounds in Germany, and they were 3-minute rounds with a 1-minute break in between.
Yeah,
rounds.
with Ferrado Vons, right?
Yeah,
They did
exactly.
was it the carnival or something, or
I
some
don't even
tournament
remember.
thing?
It was, and he not only beat me the straight 30 minutes. He beat me between the rounds. He hit me with water buckets, the stools that they brought in.
Right.
There were no breaks. You know what I mean? And he swears, you knocked me out in the first elbow. You hit me with an elbow, knocked me out. He said, I was stunned the rest of the night. It's like, no, you were not stunned the rest of the night. But that's his story. But honestly, those were two of the toughest guys.
He's a tough guy.
Were you in Mid-South when was it Steve Williams and those guys saved those people out of the burning car on that highway?
I was there, but I wasn't at the accident. They
okay.
actually ripped the doors off. I mean, they pulled those people. They saved their lives.
Right.
There's no doubt in my mind they saved their lives.
Right.
Dr. Death did that. That's right.
Just a couple more questions. Just finish up real quick. Bob, how was your time in Smoky Mountain Wrestling? And did you think that was the closest thing to a revival of a real territory?
Yeah, I thought it was. I think it lasted how long? Four
or 5 years. Yeah.
4 or 5 years. So, I mean, we kept our territory. It was Southeastern 5 years. Then we changed it to Continental. That used to be the average run of a good run was about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then you needed to make a change. But I had more fun at Smoky Mountain. No pressure. And let me just say didn't have to watch what I said or anything. It was a load of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. And Brad got there right at the last. And
I was in
he
the
came in
days.
right as it finished up. I hated that. But all my other sons came up there and worked, even Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They all worked there, but Brad, and finally when Brad came in, I think Vince just got tired of hearing about Smoky Mountain, so he just hired Jimmy.
Cornette's entertaining to me.
He's
Right.
very
He is
entertaining guy.
highly entertaining.
We saw him last night too.
Oh, okay.
He was in Birmingham.
In Birmingham?
Yeah.
What's it? What is that called? Wrestle Birmingham?
Birmingham, yeah.
That's
the
runs that?
website too. That's Linda Marks is the lady's name.
Old money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her father
Family
was the
money.
first Jewish man born in Birmingham.
Uh-huh.
He played ball with Barrett Bryant.
Uh-huh.
Was on the team that got a picture of him and Barrett Bryant. They would beat the USC 7-6 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's old money there.
Mm-hmm.
So she pays the price.
Is that a territory are they trying to build a territory there?
Yeah, just a small. She's just having
but she
fun.
doesn't run many towns other than Birmingham.
Yeah.
Who's the booker?
Is there a booker? There's been several bookers.
Robert Fuller's helping her out, but
helps
everybody
book.
kind of pitches in. They'll ask me, or
Jimmy Powell
call me.
booked for a while, and she gets input from several.
it's not a
different
territory though.
Right.
No,
Definitely
it's
not.
just a once a month type
Once
of
a
thing.
month, yeah.
Just to finish up in conclusion, if you had to make a DVD to show to, well, maybe your children or grandchildren or whatever, of your 3 greatest matches, what would they be?
Nick Bockwinkel,
From where?
Atlanta City Auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
When I beat Nick Bockwinkel, the fans wouldn't know. We were just talking about that today. The fans gathered around the ring because I was a rookie, and they started beating the mat with their hands. I've never seen anything like it. Nick said he hadn't either. I couldn't get out of the ring. So Nick Bockwinkel, several matches with Ric Flair and Dory Funk Jr., which he saw.
Right.
What would be your favorite 3 matches you'd put on a DVD?
I had a tag match in Japan with Scott Norton. Scott Norton and I worked with Hiroshi Hase.
Mm-hmm. And Kensuke Sasaki?
And Muda.
Muda. Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a championship match, and I didn't realize the magnitude of it until I was in it.
Right.
You know, and they played the American national anthem for Scott and I, and then they played the Japanese version of their whatever national anthem also, and it was for the tag belts for their IWGP, right?
Yeah.
So and they came to me before and they said, tonight we make you make people cry, and I'm thinking, at first it was like, tonight I make the people cry. Well, they beat the shit out of me. I mean, they really roughed me up pretty good.
Right.
But I fought them tooth and nail. In Japan, that's if you don't, then you don't get the respect. And so I fought them tooth and nail. And the next day, Saito told me, today you off, yesterday. Because and it was a respect. I got a bonus for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, we lost, of course, and they held the belts and that kind of thing. But I'll never forget the magnitude. The thing I wish I had a copy of it.
Right.
I really.
I have it if it was on TV.
Really?
Yeah.
Yo, it was. It was. God, I wish.
I have every New Japan show in my basement.
Not Yokohama, but I know it was one of those big towns.
Sumo Hall?
When we left the building, Scott Hall and not Scott Hall. Good Lord, Scott Norton. Scott Norton and I left the building to go to the bus.
Right.
the people crowded us so bad that we were swaying, and Scott Norton's 350 pounds,
Right.
but we were swaying with the crowd of the people. They were just
Pushing,
wanting to
right.
touch us.
Right.
It was like,
They like it.
you know, and also I had a match with Chris Benoit on a bash, like a Great American Bash, or no, what was the live TV? They had a live
Nitro.
They had a live
Clash of Champions.
Clash of Champions. I had a live show. A match with Chris Benoit from Milwaukee because we went by and saw Jeffrey Dahmer's house. That's why.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Was that the one where there was a snowstorm?
it might have been.
I heard there was a
It might
snowstorm
have
on a
been,
Clash
but
of
there was
Champions.
It was
real bad.
I just remember going and seeing the Dahmer,
Wow.
freak. Anyway, so and then the 10-round thing with Finley.
What would be the 3 matches of your father? Your favorite 3 as a kid?
Oh, it would have to be two of them would have to be the Dory Funk Jr. time limit draws. I mean,
In Macon and Columbus.
yeah. I mean, those. Let me think. Gosh, you know what? There've been so many Dad used to do things that were that he doesn't do anymore, of course, but he did things that were very different. You know, he used to come off the ropes, come off like the corner, turnbuckle, and elbows and stomps and stuff like that. That is, I don't know, just things like that I don't know, I'm amazed by. I mean, our styles are different to some degree. He's much more the entertainer, and I'm much more the let's get on it, let's get to it, let's trade holds. But I wish I had more of that. I really do. My younger brother Brian has more of that.
Right.
And I wish I had more of that.
The fire. And...
Right.
Is there one person, Bob, that you never wrestled that you want to wrestle, or still?
I can't think of one.
You wrestled pretty much
I've
everybody.
been pretty well through. I would like to have wrestled Kurt Hennig when he was at his peak. To me, he was one of the most entertaining heels I've ever seen in the business when he was at his peak. I would love to have wrestled him because he would have just cracked me out. He was just great.
He was a superb athlete, and you know what? Forever and ever, I would pass him in airports and say, and Hawk, God love his heart, he was one of my best friends, Hawk, Mike Hagstrand, and he used to say, "You don't know Kurt Hennig? Oh, dude, y'all are just alike. You're exactly alike, And so when he finally came to WCW, I got to work with Kurt Hennig,
right?
And that was like, I was so happy, But Bret Hart was the one I always wanted to work with, and I never got to. But I got to tell him that I've always wanted to work with him, because he's technically sound. He really is. So that's.
In conclusion, here, one or two more things is it true that Austin Idol one time in Continental or Southeastern there was a battle royal and he had the actual promoter write out the check for the $5,000?
That happened in Columbus, Georgia.
Fred Ward, and he
and
took the check.
He cashed the check and left the area. And when he came back years later, I had to go and be peacemaker between him and Fred Ward. And so I think Fred Ward got the money back. If Austin Idol stayed in the territory here, I guarantee you Fred Ward eased that money right back out. But he did go and actually cash the check.
Yeah, he certainly did.
And that wasn't in Continental. I'd have beat the hell out of him.
Just in conclusion here, what is in the future plans of Bullet Bob Armstrong?
Wrestle 2 or 3 times a week till I can't. I'm not stupid. I know every match may be my last, but I have fun. And I'm going to keep on until I can't do it at all.
Brad?
Yeah, I'm just, I've been fortunate enough to be hired by ECW, and I look forward to that opportunity. I'd love to train some of the younger guys. That's really where my heart's at, because there are so many tiny little things in our business that are totally lost now, and wrestling, and a lot of the techniques are a lost art. And I think not that I'm the master, but I do know some things that I could help with. And so I'm not saying this that I'm going to come in and, you know, take over the company. I just think that I have something to offer, you know, little things that would make.
Little things mean a lot.
Yes, they do.
Well, that's great. I'd like to thank you guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you
Definitely a
very
pleasure.
much.
It was great to have you guys.
It's our
Thank you very
pleasure.
much.
Thank you very much.
Hey, okay, put him back on. I have him with me now.
Hello, who is it? Who am I speaking with?
Listen, I want you to steal my fucking car. I need my fucking car greased, you greasy bastard.
I'm sorry, you must have the wrong number. Who is?
How you looking again?
Kathmandu.
Hey, man.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. I need to get my car greased. Can I come down here and stand in front of it?
Yeah, I'll be right there, Kev. Hold your breath, okay? Hey, listen, you know what? I just did a shoot interview and your name came up. I did a shoot interview and your name came up.
Did you tell me that I
You know, I didn't tell you I didn't tell him how you made me used to come in and look into your shit and see what a wonderful masterpiece you've left. But
Did you tell me about that
what's he?
When you
talking-
ran you over.
Ran you over in
Ran-
Florida.
I neglected to mention the fact that you hit me with a car also. Yeah, I wrote, and Sir Oliver Humperdinck had the biggest eyes I've ever seen on a human fucking being. He was like, oh my, and his eyes were big anyway. But what I told him was that the Bahamas, when the ketchup bottle bounced through the middle of the ring. You remember that? No heat tonight, brother. Yeah. I've got my dad with me, and he's trying to drive. He wants to drive to Pensacola tonight, and I'm trying to beg him to stay at my house. I live like 15 minutes from here. Yeah, well, fuck, he could. Yeah, I wouldn't last I wouldn't get outside the city limits, man. I'd be at a Waffle House and then coming back home. Kevin, I love you, buddy. I miss you, man. All right, buddy. Take care, man. It was nice hearing your voice, even though there's a lot of feedback and static, but I think that comes along with the package, right? Yeah, he'll always look better than me. You know what I mean? Smoking 8 packs of cigarettes a day, for crying out loud. I hope I see you someday soon, Kev. I really do. I miss you, buddy. All right, bud. Take care of yourself, all right? Hey, by the way, swordfish.
My phone died.
Oh, swordfish. That was our
inside joke.
code word. If the shit was on, it was like, you get the shit? Swordfish. And when I knock on the door, he'd say, swordfish? He'd say, swordfish. That way the door would open.
TitleMatchNetwork.com